3, 2, 1. So, that was it. That's the intro. Hi, everybody. This is Sardonicast. This is Adam from Your Movie Sucks. Who else is here? You're supposed to be coordinated here.
Oh, Ralph, I'm so used to you going second. I'll go
I thought our guest would go. I'm Ralph.
Usually the guest goes last,
the movie maker.
based on every single other episode we've recorded.
Who else is here?
I'm Alex from IHG, and we are, of course, joined by the special guest, Jenny Nicholson. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't want to just jump in until I was invited formally.
Yes, Discord.
I prepped everybody for everything but that. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should have told them how that goes, but oops. Oopsie, whatever.
I think it went really well. I think it was really engaging.
Awkward moments give character.
It's natural. It's okay.
You know?
Yeah.
The old pregnant pause, it's, you need them in podcasts.
Did you say pregnant pause?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
I've never heard that expression.
Jeez.
I don't really know why it's called that, but it is a phrase.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You learn something new every day. Earlier, we were learning the term e-meat.
Yeah, maybe it's pregnant pause, like it's gestating the next thing that's going to be said. Like it carries the weight of a forthcoming thought or something, a sentence.
I honestly can't hear the word pause without thinking P-A-W-S. And the word pregnant pause just...
Do you think it was like a furry username or something?
Yeah, like a furry thing.
It's given me DeviantArt flashbacks is what's happening right now. So
that was my DeviantArt name, Pregnant Pause.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
A lot of inflation fetish stuff, Mm-hmm.
A lot of BronyCon related stuff. By the way, congratulations on your Hugo nomination.
Oh, yeah.
If I got
Thank
that correct.
you.
Yeah, amazing.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about that.
It's crazy.
Yeah. How did that come about?
What, can you talk more about that? Because I actually don't know much about your Hugo nomination.
My BronyCon video got nominated for Best Related Work for the Hugo Awards. So I'm up against like a bunch of, it's the category that's like a catch-all. So like most of the Hugos are novels and stuff, but related works can be like podcasts, parody works, a couple of conventions are running against me. So it's really anyone's race.
Wow.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at least one, maybe 2 conventions. And then I'm like, that's hard because then how can people vote if they didn't like attend that convention? But I think a lot of it was online, so they can like watch.
Oh, they're not allowed to?
Stuff. Well, no, I guess everyone's supposed to vote. So I don't know. I think that maybe they're going to watch the panels online and then gauge like the content at the con. I'm not sure. I don't think con's ever been nominated before.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
but yeah, I want to try to watch all the other content I'm against at least. I know I can't consume like everything before the Hugos, but at least the stuff in my category would be nice to know.
Yeah.
Your competitors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell everybody in our audience who might not be familiar with you what you're all about, what your channel's all like, and what you do.
I feel like every year that gets harder to answer because at first it was like, oh, I do like Star Wars stuff. And then it was like, I do Star Wars and like Disney and Marvel. And then it was like, sometimes I talk about theme parks. And now it's just kind of like any topic that I think would be fun or interesting to talk about for like a really long time, like an excruciatingly long time. But yeah, I guess I like to do like deep dives into things, which could be theme parks. They could be movies. They could be weird reality shows, weird books, all kinds of stuff. Right now I'm working on a theme park, like an independent theme park in Utah called Evermore.
Oh, that's like a foreboding name. That sounds like
cool.
It is.
Quoth the Raven.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. It's not a park that's doing super well right now. There's a lot of drama, a lot of weird backstory. So yeah, I'm excited about that one.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, what I've always appreciated about your channel is it's very you. I think one of the things that really struck me when I discovered it was that you were doing reviews of literature, which is not a very common thing on YouTube, and I wouldn't imagine would be a very particularly marketable thing because like a lot of people are just looking for video related content, but I guess you can make video content out of reviewing literature.
Yeah, I know there's a whole subculture. So yeah, there's like a whole booktube culture. They talk about, I think mostly YA books are the most popular topic of booktube, but I think that it's kind of like a thriving community, but like kind of like a lot of YouTube subgenres, maybe the biggest channels in booktube are still like relatively small compared to other genres might have. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe there are some really big booktubers. But yeah, I didn't see a lot of like parody content with books. Especially like I think it's hard to do because you have to like know what to leave in because you can't sit down and read an entire book, but you also can't assume that your audience has read the whole book. So you have to like read parts of it.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to imagine.
Yeah, whenever I would do a book, I would just read the whole thing first and like highlight passages and like stick Post-it notes in if I thought it was like a funny part. And then just go back and read all the highlighted parts. So I would know what was necessary to like understand the story, but also like what's funny. And then it was pretty fast to record after I did that because like all the work was basically done. But a lot of pre-preparation.
That's awesome. Somebody in my audience notified me that you've written a couple articles for Playboy. How did that happen?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was weird. That was a while ago, too. I think they literally just emailed me and were like, would you want to do that? And I was like, okay. Like, I think both times they even like approached me with the topic. And I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. And I thought that was cool because it's like a real publication, you know? But yeah, and that was it. They basically just emailed me with like the idea. And I was pretty like new to YouTube. So I thought it was like really flattering that they would want me to write something for them. Oh, yeah. So I did it. But, yeah, I wish it was more exciting.
How big was your audience at the time?
I think I was at like between 100,000 and 200,000 subscribers. Which I feel like is like you have an audience, but you feel like insecure in your place as a YouTuber, kind of.
Yeah, I noticed. I didn't do like a deep dive or anything. I noticed Adam Conover also wrote an article for Playboy, and I guess it got me to be thinking about how like a lot of old media publications are kind of having to compete on the internet now. You know, it's like a normal thing.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, for sure.
Combining old media and new media almost seems like a viable strategy for them at some points.
Yeah, definitely.
Did either of you have any questions, Alex and Ralph?
Yeah. And I apologize in advance to Adam because I know you just don't care about this topic at all.
Oh, great.
Star Wars. We have to talk about Star Wars.
Right.
Where do you kind of stand on it at the moment? Are you just done with it at this point? Did The Mandalorian do anything for you? Or?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I'm genuinely really curious.
Yeah, I kind of have just like stopped liking Star Wars, I guess. It's weird because like I still have all my Star Wars stuff. Yeah, like I have all my my porgs and stuff like that. But I just feel like a lot of the newer content is like, actually, I don't want to single anyone out. I feel like there are some creatives at Lucasfilm who make a kind of content that I'm just not interested in that's very like fanboy centric. And I feel like all the new stuff is like that. And so I don't know. They kept releasing products that I like didn't care about. And then I really disliked The Rise of Skywalker. So, you know, at first when that movie came out, I was like, that's okay. I still like Star Wars. And then the more stuff that came out, the more I was like, I'll see like an R2-D2 in a store and be like, I'm free. Like, I don't care about Star Wars anymore. But it's kind of sad because I have, you know, all my porgs and my BB-8s and I have like lightsabers in my living room. And
yeah, your channel banner is still BB-8.
Is it really? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never update those. It'll probably stay BB-8 forever.
Yeah, well, Amanda's channel is forever Amanda the Jedi, so
yeah,
she's got to deal with that a bit more.
Super into Star Wars?
Oh, I don't know. I think we asked her about why her channel name was Amanda the Jedi, and she didn't seem to be like. I don't know if she's super into. She didn't seem to be like a super Star Wars fan at this point. I don't think she dedicates a lot of time to talking about Star Wars.
She could liberate herself. No, it'd be really easy to just like, I mean, her name is already part of the name. So if she was just Amanda last name, then I feel like she could easily transition if she wanted to.
Yeah. Well, at least we now know why Han Solo's name is Solo.
Oh.
Yeah. At least we have that.
That was really necessary.
Yeah, that whole movie. Yeah.
Rise of Skywalkers. That sucks. That was a bad movie.
Yeah, it was horrible. It like ruined, it crushed my soul. I was so sad about it. Like for like months, I was so sad every time I thought about how disappointed I was about it. And I guess I still am. Now I'm just angry, so that's better. Just angry about it, bitter.
Yeah, can't say I blame you.
The secret to never being disappointed is never having expectations.
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't. I just was really tricked into thinking it was going somewhere, you know?
Oh, wow.
I was completely fooled.
Yeah. That was like originally supposed to be like a Lord and Miller thing, and then they scrapped that idea or something. I don't remember.
What, the Solo movie?
Yeah, it was supposed to be, it was
Yeah.
it was supposed to be something completely different.
Oh, yeah, Solo was. I feel like you can kind of see all the thumbprints in Solo, where it's
Yeah.
like,
Solo's
you can
pretty
imagine
bad, too.
beats that in an absurdist comedy would have been like a funny scene, and
Yeah,
then they
yeah.
turned it serious, so it's not. It's just a really weird movie.
Oops. It turns out that having a lack of direction in a franchise spanning multiple films is not a good thing. What was that new quote that came out? Was it J.J. Abrams that said, "Hey, I guess maybe we should have had a plan"?
That's right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Insulting.
Yeah, he said maybe it would have been better if we planned all three, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't say.
No shit.
Very interesting. What a crazy
I was
Yeah.
looking at just the
Shocking.
finances of the movies, like the Star Wars trilogy, the new one. And the newest one made significantly less than like Last Jedi. Like each one, there's like a huge
really?
drop off. Like the highest grossing movies of all time, Last Jedi is 14, right? And then the one after it's much less.
I hope that was word of mouth, and like people, it was
Yeah.
because people heard it was bad, but I don't even have faith in that. It was probably just because people were bored of Star Wars.
It still made $1 billion,
yeah.
of course, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
top grossing movies of all time, it's 32.
Oh, that's a disgrace.
Yeah. You know, like there was a huge drop off.
If I can kind of rationalize why people would be so unwilling to check out the third movie, I think it's because, like, Episode 7 was such a carbon copy of Episode 4 that it didn't really tell you much about what the new trilogy was going to be, so you could kind of fill in the rest with your imagination and be like, oh, they set some stuff up, and it could go really interesting. I wonder what they'll do when they actually break away from just making a carbon copy, a nostalgia bait thing. And the expectation was that they would, and then Episode 8 happened, and people were like, oh, I didn't like what this was. You know? So it was
Yeah,
no
I feel
longer...
like Episode 8 set up like so many, it basically diverged from the old trilogy. Like I feel like Episode 8, I watched it and I was like, oh, like it's doing a new thing. Like this could go in any direction. It's got all these like status quo shakeups and like characters are ending the film in like weird places. Like it made a lot of moves you would expect the final film in a trilogy to make. So I felt like that left the board like basically wiped clean, where you're like, oh, anything can happen. What will the third movie be? And then the third movie was just like resetting the chessboard and being like, actually, it's going to be all the most, all the things you can expect the most of a Star Wars movie, with like nothing exciting, nothing new. It's just like all the saddest, most played out beats, back for more.
It was two directors arguing with each other over what the series should be with the movies themselves.
Yeah, and it's like,
Such a waste.
yeah, he electively left and didn't do the whole trilogy. So it's like, you know, once he's yielded that, he can't come back and be mad at what they've done while he's gone. He has to like accept that and try to make a good movie instead of like resetting everything.
Yeah. I'm honestly shocked that there was no coordination, because even with the credit showing like written and directed by Rian Johnson, in the back of my head I was thinking, his name's there, but he didn't. You know, he's
A lot of
working
studio
with
influence,
he's
you think?
working with like
Yeah.
a blueprint that somebody else gave him, right? But
Yeah,
apparently
I thought
no.
so. I thought it was like there was a room where they're all together and they were like,
Yeah,
okay, and then
like a
it's going to go
plan.
this way. Or at least he had the ideas, but then it was collaborative from there, where he's like, what if Snoke dies in this one? And they're like, oh, and then we can do this. But it does seem like they just sent him off and then he came back with something and they're like, I guess we'll figure it out after this. And it's like, why would you do it that way? There's so much riding on it financially. They were in the middle of building a theme park set in this timeline, which is such a horrible idea. It's so insane.
I think part of that probably comes from how ballsy they were, just thinking like, you know what? We can do anything and people will eat this up. I think that's how Disney thought about Star Wars.
I think it was that.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
They were like,
yeah.
we don't need to do anything because it's Star Wars.
You can tell they had it was like all hubris.
Sure. There's a lot of things going on. Rian Johnson's definitely a
'Cause, yeah.
talented director, because he made Knives Out, which I think is really good. I think that's a really good movie. And I put
Break
some of the responsibility on J.J. Abrams and also Kathleen Kennedy, who was like the producer of the trilogy.
Wait, so do none of you guys like The Last Jedi? Am I the only one that likes it?
I
Last
liked it
Jedi.
at first, but I'm souring on it as time goes on because it.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, I did as well.
Well, in
at
the
the time, but
trilogy,
I
it
just
doesn't
feel like
work, but
now
that's not the fault of the movie because, like, the trilogy, you know, he thought they were going to continue his story, and I felt like he did leave it open for them to do that.
it's almost too conclusive, the story.
Oh no, I loved it. I loved that it was conclusive. I mean, that was like literally I made like a wish list before the movie came out, and I was like, what if Snoke died in the second one? That would be such a game changer. And then it literally happened, so I was so excited because, like, I don't know. I liked that people said it was conclusive, but to me, it was like the opposite of it because it was like there was intended to be a third movie. And the fact that so many of what you thought were like these basic boring plot threads were wrapped up left you to have this kind of like gray character beats, like moral ambiguity. You're like, now we don't have a cartoon villain. We have Kylo Ren, who's like a conflicted villain, and he's probably going to have to lead the First Order in the next one. And you have all these pieces set up where you're like, oh, it could go anywhere. Like all bets are off. So yeah, I didn't feel like it felt over. I felt like it had negated all of the most predictable story beats and kind of like pruned those threads. So you felt like all the remaining possibilities would probably be something really unique and exciting and not just Palpatine coming back from the dead.
I guess
somehow.
that's what I lament more, yeah.
I agree that that's exciting, but it has for me, in order for that to work there, I mean, if you're going to do a third movie, it's like you have to have that has to feel justified somewhere, right? Because like the trilogy doesn't end on the second movie out of the trilogy. Personally, I'm a little indifferent about it. I don't really care too much about Star Wars as a whole. I'm not like a huge fan of any of the films. But for me, episode 8, I loved what was happening filmmaking wise. I loved the cinematography. Like some of the most memorable parts are like the visuals for the salt red planet and the crashing and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, visually, that's really striking, and I love it. But story-wise, it's not like I was like offended at anything. It's just I wasn't really that invested. And then key moments like I don't know. It's always it always irritates me no matter what the film when it's like love saves the day, and we kind of got that message with Rose and what's the guy's name? Where it's like she crashes into him.
Oh,
like
Finn,
that.
yeah.
That moment, I was
really
like,
bad scene though. That was an awful.
I didn't
scene,
like that at all. Like that was a cringe moment for me. I couldn't.
With the kiss, yeah, very strange.
Well, I thought that was going to set up something that would happen in the third movie, but
Exactly.
none of it
Exactly,
did.
yeah.
I was like,
felt
oh,
the
that
same way.
line is going to be like a poignant line in the next movie that'll come back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had
But
so
then
many
even Rose
caveats.
didn't come back effectively. Rose was just kind of gone in the next movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're too scared of
The
the backlash.
complete
Yeah.
picture of the
Yeah.
trilogy makes each of the individual films worse. They all drag each other down.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I still like The Last Jedi the same amount because I think, like, especially knowing it was created in isolation, you're just like, well, he thought it was going to have a better ending after it. So I still like it the same, but I can't really enjoy watching it now because it is just, like, frustrating being like, oh, this
Yeah, I'm the same.
effectively never had a sequel.
Yeah.
It basically just, didn't end because,
Yeah.
no one attempted to pick up those plot threads at all.
Yeah, none of them were picked up.
Yeah.
I think ranking them, like, it's not the worst movie. There are a lot of prequel
think
fanboys
I
who go
hate
after it. I
Seven
think
a lot
Attack
more
of the
now.
Clones is a worse movie than
No, I blame
like,
7
The
more
Last
as well.
Jedi.
Yeah.
Revenge of the
I think
Sith,
The
you want to
Phantom
debate?
Menace is the
of
worst
course,
one,
like
though.
Revenge of the Sith has some redeemable parts, like some funny parts, I guess. Like Attack of the Clones is boring. That's just fucking boring.
Yeah, like Revenge of
And
the
this-
Sith is like camp, which I think is fun.
Yeah,
Attack of the Clones, I
sure.
think, is a little worse. I think Phantom Menace is like the worst of all.
But I think Last Jedi is better than
No,
those.
no.
I think it's better than a lot of those.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a little more interesting. It's a little better shot. The story's better. Like, yeah, there's like a few
depends.
things like that.
It depends on what characteristics you value. Because the people that
I
love
guess
the
so.
prequel
Yeah.
trilogies love space politics. And there's a lot of space politics in those movies, right?
Even so, it's like, I don't know. The first one is so unwatchable.
If I don't get any visuals out of the prequels. If
Yeah.
I'm looking for some good, interesting visuals, I'm not really getting that out of the prequels because every shot
Yeah.
looks so bad. Like everything looks so fake.
Yeah, I mean, it's
right?
just the constraints of the green screen where they have to just kind of like be standing in front of a flat plane.
yeah,
at all
the
times.
constraints that George Lucas put on the movie himself.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
exactly.
the restraints he consciously gave
They're
himself.
a fascinating
Yeah.
series of movies.
Yeah,
For sure.
Not for me. I mean, none of them are really for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of Disney dumpster fires, we
Yeah,
all
prequels,
saw
yeah.
Girl Joker. I mean, Cruella. What did
It was
everybody
Joker
think?
and The Devil Wears Prada. It was both of those things.
It was a lot of things.
Well, what are your
Yeah, it was
first
a lot of
thoughts here,
things.
Jenny?
It was so horrible. Like to kind of a fantastical degree. I felt like the first hour or so was like horrible in a really unfun way where I was like constantly mad at like all of their like editing
Yes.
choices and like directing choices and the writing. And then like the final act, which felt like an additional hour. I'm not positive. It felt very long. The final act started to get so crazy that it was like fun bad. And then I was like way more on board. But I don't want to give it any credit by saying that because it was definitely just like an extremely bad, like very incompetently made movie. But at least it was like funny at the end. So I'll give it that. I did really enjoy it ultimately.
It was almost like a Saw movie reveal at the end.
Yeah. It was
Da, da, da.
the reveal
Da, da, da.
where, wait, are we spoilers? Are we spoiling
Yeah, can we
Cruella?
go
Yeah, please
Spoilers?
spoilers. Yeah, let's do spoilers. Thanks for the reminder to tell
The
people.
reveal with the butler when he's suddenly like, this key opens a music box and the Duchess is your mother. I was completely losing it at that scene. It
It's
was like the
really
craziest
funny.
thing I'd seen in a theater in years.
Also, okay, am I confused here? Did I miss something? But like, the Duchess doesn't magically give up her property because she's going to jail, right? Like, that's an inheritance thing. She's still alive. Also, the property's going to to Estella, not Cruella. And even if Estella writes in her own will that everything she owns goes to Cruella, how did Estella get in the first place if the Baroness isn't?
Yeah, why didn't she fake Cruella's
Yeah.
death? Because like she faked the death of the person who stood to inherit everything. Maybe in this fantasy universe, whoever has the music box key inherits the manor. And that's why the key was so instrumental.
I was recording a review for this earlier, and I was skimming around trying to find the scene, and I couldn't find it. But I swear that maybe I made this up in my head, but I swear there was a moment of like them saying, "Oh, and I signed my will as Estella, saying I'm giving everything to my friend Cruella." I'm just wondering how Estella gets it in the first place if the Baroness is still alive.
Maybe she was killed in prison and they cut out that scene in the editing
Also, there's no
process.
body for Estella. She's just a missing person.
Well, she fell into the sea.
Yeah, but
Everyone saw her plummet to her death.
That was a
I don't know.
hilarious scene.
She
when
could have
just
had a
pushes
parachute.
her into the
and
ocean
she did.
in front of all those people. That was so funny.
Yeah, and she somehow didn't hear any of those like hundreds of people coming
like
out onto the
hundreds of people.
balcony.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And she goes into a parachute, drives away in the boat, does a costume change, goes all the way back to shore, and then shows up in the
As
DeVille vehicle just to flex on the Baroness right as
Yeah.
she gets. But
Yeah.
this is just as the cops are arriving to the murder scene. So
Yeah,
did
she had
all
to
that
be
The
very
cops
there.
were already
fast.
there. Remember, they were putting handcuffs on her. So in
I don't
between walking
remember.
her from the backyard to the front of the house, she did all that. Yeah.
Oh wow, the cops were already there. Okay.
Yeah, she preemptively called the cops
Mhm.
to be party to the murder.
Yeah, the cops were there. They were putting handcuffs on her immediately. Remember? She's like, "What are you doing with those handcuffs?"
Oh, okay.
They just always walk around with those at the ready.
I don't know. The movie was. I wasn't a fan of it. Sorry.
Wow.
I'll start with the two things I liked, okay?
Yeah.
That being the two lead actors and the costume department. Those are the two things I liked in this movie.
The two lead
Literally
actors being
everything
Emma
else.
Stone and other Emma, the two Emmas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the two
Thompson.
Emmas, the dual Emmas.
Yeah.
I thought they were okay.
Yeah. Well, I loved Emma Stone in it. Like, she seemed like she was having a wonderful time.
Yeah.
I love Emma Thompson in everything, but in this, I didn't like her. I felt like she was just doing the Meryl Streep Devil Wears Prada thing.
Mm.
Like, it was, I don't know. It
Yeah.
felt like it could have been a zanier character, but she just seemed like she was like, well, I guess this character just acts exactly as you'd expect. And she just kind of was mimicking like every character of that type.
I was wanting to love Emma Stone and to some extent Emma Thompson in this film, but I couldn't because before I watched Cruella, I had recently watched the 90s Dalmatians movie with Glenn Close. And also the 60s
so good.
one.
I mean, it's not a good movie,
I'm-
but yeah.
But the performance is very captivating and it's exhilarating and it's great. It's funny. It's cheese. A lot of it you don't take seriously. I don't know how much you're supposed to. It's not a good movie, but the performance is like so wild and out there because what Glenn Close was doing
Yeah.
is she was matching what the character was in the 60s film. And the character in the 60s film was also very eccentric and out there and like spoiled and pampered and clearly has never had anybody tell her no in her life and just freaks out, blah, 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 blah. And a very huge energy to this character. And it's so toned down in Cruella.
Well, it's her origin story, and it's an alternate universe, so she has to be lovable now.
If you're making a movie trying to market towards people who may, who recognize the character, theoretically, you're marketing towards people who want to see that character. And if you're not going to show the character, then what is that? They showed a glimpse of it for one scene in this new Cruella film where she basically just told Horace and Jasper, "I'm Cruella," and it's like, oh, now she's like a bit more eccentric. And then I thought she was going to do the rest of the movie like that, and then she tones it down again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh fuck, Disney! Everything's
her
so
interactions
toned down.
with Horace and Jasper. Like when she started calling them like imbeciles and stuff, it was amazing because it's like. She's playing this, like, in some scenes, she's, like, an extremely grounded character. And then in other scenes, she's, like, acting like Cruella. So it, like, begs the question of, like, imagining you're her friends and you, like, come back to your apartment and suddenly someone's doing, like, a crazy mid-Atlantic accent and being like, "Fools, I need you to capture those dogs." And just, like, having to take that in stride. And that's just your life now.
The black and white hair is a metaphor for the two sides of her personality. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was like Venom.
It was like Venom.
It was Venom. Guys, we did it.
I was amazed to see 5 writers credited for this, 3 for the story, 2 for
Not surprising,
screenplay,
actually.
and one of them, because I noticed the Devil Wears Prada thing while watching it too, and sure enough, the screenplay writer for Devil Wears Prada wrote this
that's
movie
so much more
alongside-
embarrassing to rip
that's
yourself
hilarious.
off.
Kelly Marshall, one of the other
Good
writers,
catch.
wrote Venom.
Oh my
So they're
god,
just
no.
doing their thing.
Yes, yeah,
That's amazing.
It's just
They get the
5
writer
that's why it feels like 5
Joker.
different movies, because part of it's like a
That's
heist movie.
awesome.
It's like such a mess.
That's
Oh,
so
the
good.
heist stuff was wild. I kept laughing at that because I just kept kind of like, my soul kept leaving my body and I kept being like, I can't believe what I'm watching right now. I can't believe this is the Cruella movie.
Yeah.
When the first 15 minutes are like the epic prologue. Like, so
Oh yeah, the
unnecessary.
prologue is
bloat.
interesting because this kind of ties into what you said about like, I can't believe this is marketed to people that went in like looking for Cruella. I would argue that it's not even marketed to people who care about Cruella de Vil or the animated movie, like just people who have a vague cultural awareness of it. Because the prologue gave me such Disney Descendants vibes, where it's like, it's a little kid, she's wearing her little punk rock costume with her fingerless gloves that they probably sell at the theme park right now. She's got her little wig, so she looks like a doll, and they cast like this cute little girl with like big eyes and like petite features, and it's like, okay, she's supposed to look like a little doll that you want to buy a doll of, and you want to buy her costume and be her for Halloween. Like, it felt like it was made for like 7 to 12-year-olds who love Descendants and are going to buy the merchandise and kind of identify with this sanitized Disney version of like a punk rocker girl.
Oh, yeah.
Who's like cool and edgy, but still
Corporate
a good
punk.
guy.
Which was so confusing though, because it was 2 hours, 14 minutes long. I would feel like if you're trying
It was
to
so
aim a movie
long.
for that
It was
audience, a
exhausting.
90-minute Cruella movie I could enjoy. You know,
It's way
like,
too
just
long.
get in and
Yeah.
out.
The
Don't
plotting
juggle all
and
these
the
different
pacing.
ideas.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah,
worst part
it's
for me.
so boring.
It just felt, it was way too long.
Yeah, there's that iconic scene where she's doing the monologue, like straight to camera, and you're like, oh, this is the closing monologue. And she
No.
keeps going, and finally she's like, I'm Cruella. And you're like, okay, the movie's over. It's going to go to credits. And then she goes, anyway, I have lots more to do. And then the movie like keeps going.
We
and you're
gotta
like, what's
totally
happening?
prank the Baroness for a while. we're gonna upstage
Yeah, it
her,
was
and I'm
so
gonna
weird.
sing a song on stage, and I'm gonna do some vandalisms, and I'm gonna do some art performance pieces. I'm the new Marina Abramovich or some shit. Like, it was so weird. Like,
Yeah.
there were so many different ideas in this film that are all just like mishmashed together, but they don't fit. And like one of the more consistent elements of this film is just like, okay, obviously it's a Disney remake in current year. Obviously they're going to do a lot of references and callbacks to the original film, yada, yada, yada. And it's clear that the focus is putting them in the film, but the focus is not putting them in the film in a way where it makes sense. It is actively contradicting itself. So you see things like like her hair being, oh, she was born that way with it. It's like, okay, now that says less about her character because that's not something she decided, right? Oh, she met Horace and Jasper when they were really little. Okay, now it makes less sense that she treats them like shit because they're so nice to her in this. I was expecting some sort of justification. And then, oh, the puppies...
Yeah, they're like her found family.
Yeah, they saved her and in multiple times. And then we got like Dalmatian pushes the mom off the cliff and you think, oh, this is to justify why she hates Dalmatians. And then it doesn't, and it turns out it was the Baroness and she likes Dalmatians.
The
and
twist
then
flashback where she's got the little dog whistle and she's pointing.
She pretends she kills them in this movie and wears a coat, but she doesn't. And then later, I guess she gives the puppies of these Dalmatians to Roger and Anita in the post-credits scene, mid-credits. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we needed to have that explained. Who could imagine how those characters could have gotten a dog? You can't just buy a dog. We need to know exactly how they got it.
Yeah, now also Pongo and Purdy are incest dogs because they were siblings before they had a bunch of babies.
That's the implication. And then again, like reference, like, oh, let's throw in the Cruella de Vil song right at the end. Oh, there's Roger. Perfect. He's going to play that on the piano. In the original 60s film, that was a spite song. That was a hate song. He wrote the song right after she came in, trashed her cigarette ashes all over the place and yelled at them. In this film, he writes the song right after he gets a free dog. And they haven't had any conflict throughout the entire movie. So and they didn't change the lyrics. So it's like, why is he writing this hate song?
No, Roger was amazing though. There were so many like iconically dumb moments, like when they first introduced Roger, who didn't have to be in the movie at all. Like there was no reason for him to be there. But the Emma Thompson character is like, I'm going to call my lawyer. His name's Roger, and he also writes music on the piano. And it's like, why does she know that about her lawyer? Why is she volunteering this information?
It's for us.
This like socialite woman who doesn't like any of her workers and like dehumanizes them knows the piano playing hobby of her lawyer that she also hates, I guess.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. The amount that they insist on over-explaining every element of every single thing that you've seen in the previous films makes it so much less valuable, you know?
Just like Solo, yeah.
I was so mad that I missed the scene where she got the car. I went to the bathroom when she got the car and apparently saw a license plate and went, DeVille, I like the sound of that. I was so mad when I got back and found out I'd missed it. Because like moments like that are like the tackiest part of any origin story, where it's like a character has to see an iconic object and be like, I'm going to carry that cane all the time now, or like whatever the iconic object is.
All of her character traits just come from the Baroness. Like they're not hers. Yeah. Like it says less about the character. There's a tiny moment where she's watching, like, literally it's like 5 seconds in the film. She sees someone do an evil laugh on TV and then just like smirks. Yeah. It's like, oh, she wouldn't have known how to do an evil laugh. That's where she got it. She had to hear someone else say the words imbecile in front of her for her to learn the word imbecile. Like she's the most unoriginal human being on the planet, and everything she does is lifted from just another moment. That like that fishnet veil or something over her face, it was from her throwing out garbage and it just landed on her face. Oh, she learned how to do a fashion choice from like the 50s or whatever, or the 20s. I don't remember.
I love moments like that though, because like my least favorite film genre of all time is like fictionalized biopics or like these kind of fictional character like retroactive origin stories.
Yeah.
So like, you know, if you hear like, oh, they made a movie about Charles Dickens, and you're like, if I go to see that movie, there's going to be a scene where he like meets a man that looks like Scrooge. And I always think that like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like movies about creatives are such a bad thing to do biopics about because you have to visually represent them getting ideas. And it's always by just like putting something in their field of vision that's like a top hat or like some kind of other iconography.
They're not even talented.
And it's like the tackiest thing a movie can do.
Everything just kind of fell into their lap.
There's this amazing Lifetime movie about the life of J.K. Rowling, which I love. And of course, she has to be like sitting in class and have a teacher that looks like Snape and things like that.
God.
So whenever Cruella did anything like that, I was like, yes. Yeah. But unfortunately, it was a lot of like other nonsense that wasn't just moments like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you're traveling solo. So your name's Han Solo. It's like, it's all the same shit. Disney just keeps doing the same thing over and over and over again.
And in Han Solo, he gets handed the blaster, and it's like, oh, I'll use this blaster forever. It'll be my iconic blaster. And like Lando has to only wear capes.
Here's a weird one. At the end of the movie, she takes the sign Hellman House and removes the man, and then it's Hell House.
Hell House.
Was that
Hell
to
Hall.
imply that there were like a lot of feminist themes in this film? Do people think that? Is that a thing? Or is it just because it
I
stars
think the
women?
people who made it think that.
Yeah.
I think the creators thought it was a
that's
feminist
how it feels.
text.
Yeah. There's there's women in this movie. It's feminist. Okay. So you're not really doing anything.
Exactly.
And a different pop song every 5 minutes.
There were so many like weird elements, like making Cruella's aesthetic like this London punk aesthetic when it's like she's always represented like wealth and nobility and like privilege.
Yeah.
Like, why not just have her be like a bratty socialite kid that shakes up the upper crust or something, and then you're like, oh, she just got a bad rap because she was a visionary and she didn't fit with their stuffy lifestyle or whatever. It's like, it doesn't make any sense to make her like a punk rock scrappy kid who had like an Oliver Twist childhood.
It's much less interesting.
Yeah, and it doesn't resemble Cruella or like anything that her character is about.
I was going to say the opening, it reminded me of Wonder Woman, the film Wonder Woman, when they focus on her as a kid. And it's just kind of manipulative because it doesn't really add anything to like the character, I don't think. You could just start it with Emma Stone. I don't know.
Never saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, I don't know. I noticed that Disney movies love to have kid flashbacks now, which they never did in the past. And I think it's entirely because now they sell dolls of the child versions of all the characters. Even the ones retroactively that didn't appear as children. But like,
There's a
it's like
checklist.
Moana, you had to see her as a kid. Merida was a kid. It's like all of the new princesses, you have to see them as a child at the beginning. And it's because then they can sell a canonical looking baby doll of that character.
So what happened in this movie that was even PG-13? Do you think Disney wanted a PG-13 rating to make it seem more
It
like
was a PG-13?
punk?
Really?
Apparently.
I didn't even know
See more
that.
Joker.
Was it just violence? Was it the
Just
jokes
the look
about
of it?
skinning the dogs or something?
Yeah, I don't know. There weren't like any... Were there any curse words?
The death at the beginning. I mean, it's not violent.
Yeah,
Someone
I mean,
pushed
like,
off the
I don't
cliff.
know. The Lion King had a much more traumatic
Yeah.
death, right? So
Yeah, true.
that wasn't PG-13.
Did she say anything kind of edgy, like hell or damn?
I
or
mean, the
anything?
word Hell House, but that was also in the 60s film. I mean,
Yeah, but like, did she use it colloquially or anything?
Maybe the soundtrack has a
do
swear
you think
word
they
in it.
asked for a 13 rating? I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty edgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's so edgy.
Yeah, what's so edgy about Hell House? Like, that's not even that bad. What's
Well,
that
it's
movie,
edgy, it's
Irreversible? There's
scary.
like a club in that. They should have called it
Oh,
that.
God.
That would've been really bad.
Well, imagine a house that's in hell. That would be really frightening.
Yeah,
for
like,
children.
Yeah.
that's nothing.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Come on, Disney. I don't know. I can't believe I paid $30 for this because I had to
Oh,
watch that.
congratulations, Ralph.
No, you watched it on
Fucking
Disney Plus. I saw it in
scumbags,
a theater.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's cheaper to see it in a theater for sure, but I didn't want to go all the way out to see this.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
seeing movies. I'll see any movie in a theater just because I get to eat popcorn.
You can't take popcorn in
but
your
like,
own
I
house?
feel like any bad movie is better in a theater because then you like
That's
have to
true.
look at it. I feel like it's hard to watch a bad movie in your house without like getting up and walking away. But if you're in a theater, you have like your snacks. And,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched this and Luca like as a double feature.
If I'm watching a bad movie, my ideal experience is to kind of riff on it with a friend who also is
Yeah.
laughing at
And
it.
be able
you know?
to pause it when it's 2 hours 20 long.
I don't like disturbing other people in a theater. So if there's like a really, really bad movie and I need to like whisper something very quietly to a friend in a theater,
Yeah.
we move to the front where
We
there's
sat
no
in the
people.
front. We did
I'm
get
like,
shushed
okay,
for laughing
yeah,
at it,
like,
though.
we're going to move far away from everybody just so we can like the entire...
I didn't feel this needed like my undivided attention the entire time. Not to insult it.
Yeah.
True. No, do insult it. It deserves it.
What did you guys think about the Baroness plot? I was so frustrated that like they gave her these two personalities, and I thought they would do the thing that movies typically do, where it's like one personality gets the approval of the Baroness and the other is like invisible to her, and so that would be kind of the seduction to becoming Cruella. Is like I'm getting this approval from like a mother figure, but instead it was the inverse. Like her good self was noticed and respected by her evil boss, even though
Yeah.
she was like all mousy and shy. And then the evil one was like her rival, but also kind of had her respect. So it's like, what's the point of the two personalities?
Right. I felt they went the least interesting route with it.
Yeah, and she didn't have any conflict about like, maybe I like her because she's kind to me when I'm my other self. It was like, once she decided to like kill her and destroy her, she just wanted to do that. So it made no
Yeah.
sense. There was like no point to it.
There are kind
Sure.
of more interesting things you could explore with that. You're right.
Yeah, it felt pointless.
Bizarre. But I guess it had 5 writers, so.
Yeah, they throw things in without any care about why it's in there, just the fact that it's in there. Most represented by the element that this is the worst with, I'm looking for the right phrasing here, is the music. The soundtrack where we hear every hit song from the 70s that has ever existed. And you're on to the next one before you have a chance to breathe. Yeah, exactly. It literally doesn't stop.
Yeah. It was so obtrusive.
Yeah,
I think the editor literally
exhausting.
couldn't have done this movie without being able to cut to songs. I think they didn't know how to transition to a new scene without throwing in like an extremely recognizable pop
It's padding.
song.
It reminded me of Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Where they had to remind you what era it was.
Yeah, every time. It was too much. That soundtrack must have been like 90 songs long. It was insane.
I know. I swear it broke a record. I have never felt this way watching a movie, just being like, really? Already? Again? And just like, they weren't even edited in great, like sometimes they would just have this like really weird fade where it was like, oh, that was noticeable. And then they'll talk for like 20 seconds and then the same song comes back later to like end the scene. And everything's just so like weird, disjointed and awkward and like, there's no way that these songs were in the script.
Yeah, and the music wasn't even like deep cuts.
They just tossed as many in as they could.
All the songs were like the most obvious, like famous songs.
Exactly.
Too. So you weren't even like, oh, like this is the director's like niche familiarity with like 70s music. It was just like every song you've already heard, even if you're like not from that era. It just felt so basic and obvious.
That was the worst part of the movie for me. It made it legitimately exhausting. Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't exhausting already.
Yeah.
What was making me angry was and we've complained about this in Disney's output the last few years, with just animals and making them CG. They can't get real dogs for this.
It wasn't even just like when they were in peril.
Dogs?
Like they would just be in someone's arms and they would be like pet and that would be a fake dog. And it's like, why?
And it always looked bad. It never looked good.
Yeah?
It might be controversial now to use like dogs in movies, but I don't even I think dogs are okay. Like, dog actors are fine.
It might be, yeah.
I watched this movie with my dog.
Must be the only reason is it's like a PETA thing.
CGI.
Like
it was really
that's the main reason. Make an animated movie. Make an animated movie.
Yeah, it's really distracting, you know? Like all these CGI dogs. It looked really fake.
The dogs looked horrible. They looked scary.
They didn't have so much of a role in the film that if they were real, I would think, that's mean to put them in that scene. Like they ran and they growled,
half the time,
and that's it.
like her sidekick dogs were just kind of being held in people's arms for most of the scenes they were in.
Yeah.
I could understand CGIing them when they needed to like do things in the mission and they just didn't feel like training dogs, or like when they needed the dog to wink or whatever. But most of the time, it was like, no, that person's just holding a dog on a leash. That could just be a dog, especially the non-Dalmatians. It's like I'm sure there are a lot of trained Chihuahuas in Hollywood.
There's a lot of ways they could have taken the story, and it's crazy that I barely remember anything about a 2-hour and 15-minute long movie.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like the absolute most basic plot points and just how irritating the music was. And that's all I'm left with at the end of it. Like, holy crap, you could have done this in so much less time.
I feel like it's like almost a gift in that like I'll keep remembering like a random moment and like chuckling at it because it was like really weird. Like, I was just remembering the flashback where you find out that the Baroness is her mother, and there's that shot of Emma Thompson with, like, old-timey movie star, like, makeup running down her face in, like, the destroyed room, and she's just like, I'm pregnant! And, like, that was a great moment. There were a lot of moments like that where you were just like, this is absurd. So, I appreciate that. The entire thing with the butler revealing that her locket is, like, the key to a music box that holds, like, her secret birth certificates was such, like, a little girl movie moment that was, like, fun for me. But yeah, it was at its best when it was being extremely terrible, and most of the time it was just being like, you know, minorly terrible. And
most of it was very bland. It was very average.
Yeah, especially the whole first half. Everything preceding that Cruella monologue that she gives was like really, I don't know, contemptuously boring, and then everything after it was pretty like screwball and fun.
Yeah. The IMDb lists the younger characters' ages as 12 years old for Horace, Jasper, and Estella.
Wow.
And
I thought they were much younger. They were small.
What's funny is they explicitly say in the film 10 years had passed, and then they all turn into like 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
like Horace and Jasper especially. I'm like, you're not in your early 20s.
That's not a 22-year-old.
Yeah. 10 years later. Okay. Why not just say 20 years later?
That's weird. Yeah,
it would be so easy to just say that.
If it's a kids movie, why not just have them be kids? The Cruella's origin story as a kid.
She could just be a kid the whole time and kill Emma Thompson.
That
as
would
a
be
child.
more interesting.
Yeah, like Matilda
It
or
was.
something. I don't know, like the inverse of Matilda.
Yeah. Fucking girl Joker would be so much more interesting in that way.
Yeah.
They could figure it out. It's
like a
CGI.
Home Alone thing.
CGI and accent.
Yeah, CGI her creepy socialite accent.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's really funny is after rewatching the 90s Dalmatians film, a lot of the same elements that we heavily criticized for this generation of Disney remakes were found in that film as well. They just weren't as spammed. Like there weren't as many of them. It wasn't like this huge trend that they were capitalizing on. So it was like, I guess not that big of an issue. But like
maybe it wasn't as forced. Like it just
it was definitely
natural.
Forced. It was definitely the 90s movie was definitely forced. And there were so many 90s in the same way that this is a very current generation of film thing to just spam the film with previously existing soundtrack music, licensed songs, right? In the same way that was a thing in the 90s movie, it was very heavily spammed with cheesy 90s like Home Alone style orchestral score. Right, like that was just unbearable.
Oh, and like that dun 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 dun. That was in like every kid's movie whenever funny mischief was happening.
And they kind of just turned the Dalmatians 90 movie into Home Alone also. Like with Horace and Jasper, the puppies were like pranking them and like setting up traps and stuff.
Everything other than Cruella in that one is like unwatchable, dumb slapstick. I don't know. Did you guys like it as kids?
I couldn't even tell you. I definitely watched it when I was younger, but I couldn't. I don't remember what emotional reaction I had to it, if any.
I have no connection to it.
I remember not being charmed by it, but I also was like scared of dogs when I was a kid. So like I had never had a dog. I thought they were like loud and scary. So its charms didn't work on me. I wasn't like, so many puppies. I just was like, oh, this is kind of a dumb movie.
Yeah, it was kind of dumb. All right. Do we have anything else about this film that we are eager to complain about, or should we wrap this up and get on to the next?
Sadly, no. I'm not eager about anything in this movie.
No,
it's joyless.
Yeah, maybe that's everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of my complaints. It's just average.
What would you rate the film if you want to give a rating? You don't have to. I would give it a 2 out of 10.
Wow, that's so low.
I think it's
I would
fair.
give it like a 4 out of 10, I guess. It depends. Are we talking about just like how fun was it to watch, or like
it's whatever
what is
your
its
rating
quality?
system wants to be?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10.
There you go.
It gets those points for being kind of fun to watch sometimes, but it was very bad.
Yeah, it's not really for me, so I'll give it like a 5 out of 10.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's really just average. I think that's like the worst thing you can give it, though. It's just in the middle.
Yeah.
It didn't, like, there was nothing horrible about it.
Really? I thought it was pretty horrible.
I thought Harley Quinn was horrible. Like, Suicide Squad is horrible.
If I'm rating it off my like enjoyment, it's genuinely like a half star. Like I was bored to tears.
God.
With this. Like I purposefully my whole life avoided these live action Disney movies, like Maleficent and everything. I don't know if this is bad as those. Like, you know,
I didn't even see those. I don't know.
Cinderella, Maleficent. I avoided them for a reason, and I mean,
I saw them all.
It's not for
I've
me.
seen all of it.
Is this like worse than those, or is it kind of in line?
I guess the second Maleficent was worse than this. That was probably the worst one they've ever done.
Oh,
The
they
first
did a
Maleficent
second
was
one?
okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the second one was so bad. Just unwatchable. There's nothing about it that's like worth seeing ever. Avoid it at all costs.
I did not even know there was a second one.
Yeah, I didn't.
Well, you should
Just-
stay that way.
To me,
so
it just
bad.
comes down to the fact that they felt the need and thought it was a good idea to explain why Cruella hates Dalmatians. When
But
it's
they
like,
didn't.
literally baked into the
They
character
pretended
design.
No, it was more like
They didn't
it was
even
like
explain
here's
it.
the real story. I think it was meant to imply that like
Yeah, I
what
didn't
we
even know
thought we
that.
knew. It's like Wicked. It's like what we thought we knew about Cruella was wrong all along. It's just Wicked for Cruella.
Another parallel to the Venom movie is creating a villain story where they're not actually a villain. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just mean the whole way the Dalmatians were implemented into the story, like, and then having the multiple twists with like the Darth Vader father thing. I couldn't actually believe it. It was getting comical.
So bad.
I'm just gonna keep it a half star.
Why didn't we talk about Spiral? We could have done a Saw episode. That would have been great.
Yeah, that I had a good time with.
I love Saw. I'm obsessed with Saw.
I still haven't seen Spiral. Yeah, I love the Saw.
Oh,
movies.
what?
I gotta see it. Yeah.
I want to see it again.
Okay,
in 4D.
well,
seeing Cruella and a bunch of Disney crap. Like
Without
Luca.
delving into it, what did you think of,
You saw
of
Luca?
Spiral? What's your
brief thoughts?
experience?
I really, really enjoyed it, but it wasn't good. I don't know. It was better than the majority of Saw, but that's a really low bar to clear. Once you get to those latter Saws. The thing that was weakest about it, and unfortunately left a big impression, was the final scene, which didn't have a clever twist.
Yeah.
Didn't
No
really
spoilers.
mean anything.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it. But it just, usually at least the ending scene will leave you with some kind of strong feeling about what you've seen. But it was very bombastic, but very hollow, which was disappointing because it seemed like they were trying to form a movie with some kind of meaning. So, but I overall liked it. I really liked Chris Rock's character. He was probably the most empathetic character that's ever been in a Saw film. And I'm glad they're making Saw again. I hope they keep making more.
I don't know if this will be it. It didn't really make much money, I don't think.
I don't know.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it was marketed very well.
Rock. I heard Chris Rock was
Yeah,
good,
he was great in it. Yeah.
Really?
What about you, Alex?
That makes me want to see it.
I was having fun, laughing at it. I had a great time, just with how ridiculous it is and just how bad their choices are. I feel like I'd have to delve into
spoilers
proper spoilers to get into my
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the
Next
thing. I really don't
episode.
want you to spoil it. I'm actually really looking forward to this.
Ralph, you want to watch it before next episode? We'll have a little discussion.
Yeah. I'll definitely
Okay,
watch
great.
it soon. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really
it is
looking
fun,
forward to it. Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Jenny. I could not. I could.
You hated it? Well, how do you feel about
hated
Saw?
it with a fiery. I love Saw, but I don't have this.
Which Saws do you love?
I love 1
What are your top 3?
and 6 are my favorites. So that should give
Which
you a
one
little
was 6?
insight
That was
into.
the one before.
Yeah.
Was 6 Saw 3D or was 7
7 was
Saw
3D.
Is that the health insurance one?
Yeah, the health
Yeah,
insurance
that's
one.
6.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
that's an awesome
the
That's my favorite one, I
merry-go-round
think.
and the you're a smoker,
Oh.
That's
so
a great one.
you're.
Is that the one with the
It's
couples
so
that
funny.
what the girl's cheating and they have the 2 guys have to fight outside of a
That's
mall?
7.
Saw 3.
No, that's
the
7. Yeah,
final
That's
one.
Saw
that's 7.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the same director. Saw 6 and 7 are a little similar. I know a lot of people hate 7.
Yeah.
I love 6 and to some extent 7, but more 6 because it's very.
You don't like Saw 2?
I think Saw 2 is my least favorite. Not with Spiral and Jigsaw. Those 2 are my least favorite. Of the original
What?
7, Saw 2 would be my least favorite. Yeah, it used to be when I was going through the films completely unironically when I was younger. I really enjoyed Saw 2 and Saw 3. I would just eat it all
Yeah.
up. But my current experience with Saw, the only one that I enjoy truly unironically in a way where I'm taking the majority of it seriously is Saw 1. The rest of them I'm just looking for some dumb, stupid fun. I'm
sure.
part of the
There's a lot going
experience of
on in those
enjoyment
movies,
for me is to make fun of it at the same time. And I'm able to do that a lot with
Yeah,
6 and 7.
okay.
And it's also
Okay.
very fan servicey. So it's
Yeah.
it's walking
Yeah.
the line between trash and actually delivering on what people want out of a Saw film, right? It's doing
Yeah,
both
okay.
simultaneously, and
But-
it's this.
I think part of what I want in a Saw film is Tobin Bell. I think 2 and 3,
Yeah.
especially 3 has a lot of
Yes,
Tobin
yes.
Bell.
I was
big
so
time.
mad that they didn't bring him in. And I know
Yeah.
it wouldn't make sense, but it hasn't made sense for a long time and that hasn't stopped them. So I just feel like he should be in every film.
1 is a little more genuinely good, so it didn't need as much Tobin Bell. Not that it's a good movie, because it's still the Holly and that shit. But it's
Holly.
still that was awful.
I love the
Stuff
first one.
like
I just
that.
rewatched it recently, and the editing is so funny. The car chase where they're just driving through fog
Oh,
really
yeah.
fast at the camera.
Kevin
Oh,
Gruder.
it's so good. It's iconic.
But that's the voice of the Saw franchise is the editing. It really is. And
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah,
it's
it is.
It's hilarious and
Yeah.
stupid and weird, but it legitimately is the voice
All the jittery
of the films.
cuts, the transitions where a character walks into the set from the next shot.
Every single Saw film except Spiral was edited by Kevin Gruder, aside from
Oh.
6 and
Wow.
7, which he directed.
Ah.
So he was very much the voice
Yeah.
of the franchise. And in Saw Spiral,
Yeah.
looking at the editing in that film, it's like somebody thought that they could do with Saw.
It felt very
like the
different.
editing was so much worse in Saw Spiral. I don't know if you agree or not, but
it didn't even feel like they were trying to do a Saw thing. It just felt like they were editing like a real movie, which was kind of sad because I like that the other Saw movies don't feel like real movies. They feel like weird student films.
I gotta see this now.
Yeah. We'll have a more in-depth discussion about this next episode.
But I really want to do a video ranking all the Saw, like rewatching them and ranking them all after I do my Barbie video where I rank all the Barbie movies.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask like a tier list of some theme park rides, maybe just Disney, because I was like doing
which
that.
Park?
I don't know. They're all Magic Kingdom, I guess, or Epcot.
What are your hot takes?
Hot takes. Well, like S tier rides in Magic Kingdom, like Big Thunder Mountain, Space Mountain, right? Haunted Mansion, just because of the atmosphere. Like that's just kind of what I would say, right? So like, what's an
what
S
about
tier?
the People Mover? Do you like the People Mover?
It's kind of boring.
What? No.
That's like a B or an A.
Oh my god. No,
But, like
that's
Indiana
an E-ticket
Jones
ride right there.
and like Disneyland, that's an S tier. Or,
oh yeah, that's one of the best rides of all time. Like the combination of theme and thrill, but still being like not a roller coaster. It's crazy.
Yeah. Or Universal, like they have the S tier rides. Spider-Man. That's an S tier.
You think that's
for me.
S tier?
I do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ridden the Transformers version?
Yeah, I like the Transformers one. There's no real fire in it though. I think that takes away.
Yeah, Universal is unique. Disney doesn't really use like heat effects and fire, and Universal uses it on a lot of their rides. I wanted to do a tier list of all the Universal Orlando rides because I feel like that resort has some of the most like stratification in terms of quality. Like Disney, I feel like a lot of them are like pretty darn good, maybe a couple that are bad, but Universal, it's almost like a 50-50 distribution of like the worst rides ever and like the best rides ever. And it's like very interesting to me.
I wanted to ask you about the Fast and Furious ride. I just went on that.
I haven't ridden it. I have to. I've ridden the
Interesting.
California Tram has like an iteration of it where you go through a tunnel and get like a truncated version of the ride. But I haven't ridden the Orlando version, which is probably much funnier to see it contextualized as though it's like its own ride when it like firmly isn't. So I want to ride that. I need to just go and ride all of it. But have you ridden the Men in Black ride
they, like,
there?
dance before the ride, like you see them dancing.
Yeah, I heard that they
like,
show
really
you the
funny.
car. You have a dance party.
The ride isn't that good though.
insane.
Like I miss Earthquake. That's what used to be there. It's just like a ride
I never
where you go
got
on a
to
subway.
see that.
It was so cool. That's an S tier ride, but it's gone now. They got rid of that.
So did you go there a lot as a kid?
Yeah, I went there instead of Disney. I liked it much more.
Did you ride Confrontation when it still
That
existed?
I didn't get to go on. That was gone by the time I was there. It was replaced with the Mummy.
That would be like my
the
ultimate.
Mummy
That sounded like
roller
such
coaster.
a cool ride.
That sounded really cool. My dad tells me about it. But
What is it?
I never got to go on
and
it.
what about the Jaws ride? Did you ever go
The
on
Jaws
that?
ride I went on, that was great. I told my brother that was just a boat ride. He got the shit scared out of him. It's a shark.
No.
But
That's
the
terrifying.
King Kong ride, it's just like you're on a tram and then King Kong, like an animatronic giant gorilla, comes out and just like shakes the.
I've ridden the new
tram.
one,
It's cool.
and that one's like okay.
But it's gone.
That sounds awesome, man.
But yeah, Confrontation
Yeah.
was it used to be on like a cable car going through a whole city set, and like the giant King Kong was like inside a whole city, and there was like a helicopter crash and stuff.
Yeah.
But the new one's okay, and the new one's fine.
It's fine. It's not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of the Jaws ride though.
Yeah. Did you go on that?
No, I never got to ride it, and now it only exists in Japan. So maybe someday I'll get to ride it.
Yeah, that's
but
right. Yeah.
It looks
You gotta
like
go
an
to
incredible
Japan.
ride.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
They built like a whole river there. I guess they just got rid of it for Harry Potter.
They filled it all in. Yeah, it's Diagon Alley now.
Yeah. That stuff's fine. I miss Jaws.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
stuff.
their Harry Potter rides are like pretty crazy. Like the Hagrid one's honestly one of the best rides like ever that I've ever
Yeah.
been on. But
it usually malfunctions though when I go on it.
it
That's
does.
the only-
I waited like
Yeah,
2
me
hours
too.
to ride it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, how does it malfunction?
Like it's just so
It's
complicated.
just really complex.
you know?
It has like a part where it
Yeah.
goes backwards. It has a part where it drops. A lot of animatronics.
okay.
So there's just a lot that can go wrong.
It's a roller coaster mixed with screens and stuff. It's very complex. Yeah. And usually the
okay.
timing gets off. Like, like the
Yeah.
That's kinda
movie
funny.
would end while you're like
Well, the
looking at the
Gringotts one
screen.
has the screens, and then the Hagrid one, you're in like a forest, and there's like a part where you vertically drop onto a new track, and it's like all this insane technical stuff that can break.
Cool. Yeah, theme parks are cool. That was a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, we got to plan a trip.
Well, I'll have to spend more time in America Land, the Greatest theme park of all time.
I don't know any of these.
Yeah,
Seriously.
Alex,
Dollywood.
we're gonna have to get acclimatized sometime in the
Yes,
future.
I want to go to Dollywood. That's on my list for this year.
Oh, you haven't been? I've been to Dollywood. It's actually a lot of fun. It's very
What's
nice.
that?
I really want to go. And like Pigeon Forge and
What is it?
Gatlinburg have a lot of like kitsch stuff that I want to do.
It's Dolly Parton's park.
Oh,
Oh, really?
It's in
That's
Tennessee, or right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that
and there's like
sounds
a whole
great,
little
actually.
boom town that sprang up around it of like kitsch tourism
right. It's
things.
a whole tourist stuff there. Right. I stayed in the
there's like
hotel.
theme
I did some mini
dining, like
golf.
dinner theater.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a lot of mini golf. So
Yeah,
I
I
want to
saw
go
a
there and
magic
just
show
do all
there,
that.
right? Because they're very
Oh.
religious down there in Tennessee. So like they
Right.
did the magic show and all that, but they're like, these are all illusions. The real magic is Jesus. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, they had like gospel dinner theater.
the
and
real
stuff.
illusion.
But it's just so bizarre, like how they would say that like in a theater setting. Yeah. Like, in the middle
Well,
of a
they have
magic
to
show.
just claim that it's not the work of the devil. Yeah.
Oh
so,
my
You know,
goodness,
they can't say it's sorcery.
I loved it there. I thought the people were great.
I've been cleaning my house for a couple weeks, and I found a. I don't know if you saw. I posted on my Twitter. I found a VHS in my home that I guess one of my friends just left or something, and it's a early '90s film by Peter Lalonde called "Your Child and the Occult: The Games Children Play."
Oh my
And it's like an hour long, and it's literally just like a paranoid man screaming into the microphone about how like Thundercats and Dungeons and Dragons are making children kill their parents, and it's so funny. And it's on. If you check my Twitter, I retweeted a YouTube. Somebody had a YouTube link to it too. But
I have to watch that.
Oh, it's so good.
Sure.
Review it if you want to. I'm not going to. So.
You should. You should review it.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a movie recommendation. I recommended it. We all watched it. Spoilers for Drag Me to Hell, 2009, Sam Raimi film, starring Alison Lohman and Justin Long. And it's about a main character who who I guess does loans for the bank, and she doesn't approve the loan of Mrs. Ganush. And I know that they say there's like a cultural name that they give Mrs. Ganush, but I think that that's a slur, so I'm going to avoid it and say Mrs. Ganush.
Right.
Because not a yeah,
right,
apparently
yeah.
that's a slur, and so
Yeah.
Mrs. Ganush.
Yeah, it's fraught. I mean, honestly, though,
Apparently.
if we're going to play that game, the whole movie is very questionable in that territory. You know,
yeah,
as far as trading in stereotypes and all that.
Yeah.
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it is done with a heavy layer of comedy and irony that, you know,
It is.
I think it's still fun and entertaining and enjoyable. Anyway, she gets cursed, and the film continues on from there. And just her boyfriend Justin Long is, I believe, a psychology professor, so he's questioning the validity of all of these supernatural occurrences and what's in her mind. What did everybody think? Starting with Jenny, I'm curious.
I think it's good. I just rewatched it yesterday. I had seen it when it came out, but there was a lot of stuff I didn't remember. And I mean, I just really like Sam Raimi, so I'm kind of biased, but
Awesome.
I like how like campy all of his stuff is. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, it did feel weirder. I feel like the year it was made was like a different time as far as all the stuff about the Romani woman, Mrs. Ganush. The way that she's characterized, especially the funeral scene, I was like, this does feel a little caricature-ish.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like it clearly was like also a lot of commentary on like class divides and things. So it felt like it was probably woke of its time. It just aged poorly. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
I like the character, Miss Ganush.
She was good. I don't recognize that actress, but she was very like good.
She's apparently been in other things, but yeah, there's a lot of gross out humor with her, and I think it's really good.
I'm going to look her up right now.
I was kind of grossed out by
It's
that.
very effective.
Right.
That was
It's
the
hard to
main thing
look
I
at
remembered.
sometimes.
I was like, yeah, usually when I watch a movie, it'll be like when I sit down for like lunch or dinner, I'll put something on. And I specifically remembered that I should not do that with this movie because I remembered it had a lot of like bile and slime.
Yeah.
Like just the
Coming out.
Foley when she's on
like,
screen.
vomiting.
Like her whole first scene is just like endless slime sound effects from the Foley department of like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, this is gross. It was a little dehumanizing to her, maybe, but I think that was almost like the fairy tale aspect of it is like, you know, almost Beauty and the Beast, like a test of characters. Like she's meant to be off-putting, and that's why like it proves your moral mettle as to whether you're going to be kind to her or not, because she is like physically ugly, but you're supposed to take sympathy on her.
What about you,
it's
Alex?
so over the top. It's like a cartoon at points. Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I really enjoy Sam Raimi's style, and it just feels like he really wanted to make this movie and had learned a lot after making the Evil Dead movies and the Spider-Man trilogy. Because I guess this was what he followed Spider-Man 3 with. And yeah, it just feels like he's having so much fun, and he's at the top of his game making this kind of schlock just the best it can possibly be.
This was a return to form for him.
Really,
at the time, he hadn't done horror in a while. Yeah. So like people loved this movie when it came out. They're like, yeah, Sam Raimi's back with horror.
There were a lot of people that really didn't like it. I think you'll notice if you go to the IMDb.
Didn't understand the tone of it though.
Yeah, the tone can be really confusing for some people.
Did the people that hated it, were they like teenagers that were like, this isn't Paranormal Activity? Yeah, it made money. Audience, I feel like it was probably like dumb teenagers.
The comedic elements are kind of like tongue-in-cheek, right? So I could imagine a person watching...
This is stupid.
Well, because there's a lot of like gross-out elements, right? Where it's like she's like gumming her face or like, you know, hawking a loogie into
I think it is primarily like, you know, teenagers that thought they were going to go see, you know, a Saw movie or like Hostel or something. And they were like, this is dumb. It's too silly. It's not scary. And they like didn't understand that was the point.
As well. Which is weird.
Oh, yeah, that couldn't have helped.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it is. It is, because there's, you know, significantly, like, there's a lot of blood, you know? Like, there's parts...
That's crazy.
Like, vomits blood.
Because there are two versions of the movie, right?
Yeah, there's an unrated version. That's so weird. I don't think there's much
of a difference, though.
That's hilarious. I guess they were trying not to get an R rating.
Yeah, like, I think the anvil part is in the original cut, like, you know, which it falls on her head and her eyes pop out. Like, it's so absurd, but I think that was in the other one, too. And there's like a lot of moments like that where it's clearly supposed to be funny and campy, and it's going for that Evil Dead 2 vibe. But I think the scares are very creative. I think it's a very creative movie with how it scares you, because it's not R. People aren't just dying all the time. It's a little more creative than that.
It doesn't have any deaths, I guess, except the end.
Yeah, but you know what though? Like, it depends on how we're going to define death, right? Because I mean, like, I guess it is.
Well, there's the character dying. Killed. That was awesome. Like, it was so gruesome. Like, holy shit! And you really got a sense of how scared she was.
We start off the film with like a child death. The little boy dies at the beginning of the movie and suffers. Yeah, you know. It's like, that's pretty brutal. I'm surprised this is like PG-13.
But it wasn't relying on like slasher tropes, you know. Because, like, most of the scares were like, oh, the curtains have blown the windows open. Like, it wasn't just relying on, like, her having a gaggle of friends who can all get picked off by demons or whatever. Which is, like, if it was made today, it would be like the Babadook, or not the Babadook, the Bye-Bye Man.
Yeah.
the bad version of the Babadook. You know, where it's just, like, a gang of, like, 10 dumb children. And then, you know, you follow each of them to their house where they are stalked and then killed by a monster that's, like, CGI.
The characters themselves don't matter as much in those films, whereas like this is a movie
and then this
that's
one she was
about
like very characterized.
Yeah, this is a character-driven horror movie.
They tell you her whole backstory. You learn a lot about her and like what drives her, and I feel like not a lot of horror movies bother to do that.
I wanted to mention this at some point. We kind of mentioned just how many gross out elements there were. Lots of vomiting, lots of her hair being pulled out.
I love that. I love the hair pulling.
There's a deeper reason why these things are in the film, and I'm going to ask if anybody else knows about it, but this movie is very metaphorical for a type of condition, and if nobody wants to jump in, I'll just explain it.
I have no idea what you're saying.
No? Okay, so this
I feel like I can guess, but I want to know what your take is. I don't want to just blind guess without thinking it all through.
This film is basically...
Is it an eating disorder allegory?
Yes, you got it, yeah.
Because of her weight problems and the hair falling out and
constantly flashing back to her being like fat, like, and all of the you were a fat girl, weren't you? Blah blah blah. Like, they're constantly reinforcing that. Almost every single haunting involves, she shoves a fist down her throat and like
and the
teeth and
the horror cake.
All of these symptoms of bulimia or anorexia, like, just in general eating disorder.
Interesting.
She stabs
I didn't really think
the
about that.
eye
Really?
demon coming out of the cake and everything. It's like a lot of it is just so heavily
and
reinforced.
also that whole scene, like everyone else is eating the cake undeterred, and she's the one that's like sitting there not eating it and really put off by it.
Cool.
So it's that kind of visceral.
She goes to the diner
horror.
and they're like, "Are you just going to drink coffee all night?"
Yeah. Sure. I took it as something different. I took it as like I thought it was about predatory bank loans.
I mean,
like how banking inspires people to be kind of sociopaths.
It's also about that.
Well, it is kind of about that
the
too.
Text.
There's just like a lot of things going on in it that are very interesting. Yeah, you're right. It's not just like dumb. There's a lot going on, and it's very funny. That's what really hammers it home. Like it's just a very entertaining film from start to end. Lots of great scenes. I really like Justin Long's character too. I thought he was really funny. He could have been really annoying, but for the most part, I thought he was just kind of played the ignorant boyfriend quite well.
I can't think of a movie I like him more in, honestly.
Yeah, I can't think of either. And I love the ending of this movie, and I love his reaction. Like his character's like turmoil of watching his girlfriend get dragged into hell. Like
I believe his performance in that
that's
moment.
a great ending.
It's like one of the most convincing.
Awesome
it's a good twist. And it's also good that like they spell out that she has not learned her lesson at the end, even then, because she's just cursed this woman's soul to hell. Like she thinks she deserves it, and yet at the end she's like, well, honestly, I could have helped her with the loan, but now everything's fine. So it's like there's no like contrition on her part. Like she's just happy that she's no longer like burdened by the curse. So she still is like deserving of her fate in a way. It didn't just feel like purely a mean-spirited twist.
Everyone is deserving of their fate in the movie. It's perfect. Like even Justin Long, just not even taking the situation seriously. Like, and then at the end, he sees his girlfriend get dragged to hell. He's like, "What the fuck?" That's great.
Yeah,
That's
and also like he didn't back her up with his family that much.
He didn't.
He abandoned her with his mean mom.
He's kind of a loser too.
Yeah, and he had like the casual privilege thing where it was just like, he'd grown up a rich kid and he was constantly like, oh, we'll go to my family's little cabin, and like it's all extremely intimidating.
I was laughing during the scene with he was on the phone with his mom, and his mom's like, you could have married this other girl that went to Yale. And so like I was laughing during that part. Like who even cares? Like why would she even care about this? Like his mom thinks of her.
It's so outrageous.
But it's set up for later. It is. It's a very over the top movie. Yeah. So I forgave it.
It's feeding into the classism thing too. Yeah.
Well, and it's also the point is like her hearing it too, because then it's her inadequacy. I mean, everything is like her inadequacy and trying to
very
to
self-conscious.
Fit in. So that's why that is good with the eating disorder thing. I guess like as soon as you said it, it was like, oh yeah, of course. But I hadn't thought of that when I watched it.
Yeah, because horror movies, especially like funny horror movies that are like really gross out and this tone, you don't really see a lot that try to tackle deeper meanings or subjects, right? Like. No. It's a very rare thing. You don't expect it from this genre. You expect it more from like an art house drama or something, So
there's actually so much going on in it.
Yeah,
and it's all weaved together really well. It balances the tone extremely well. Like I wasn't expecting that whole, the CG fly going inside her and hearing it inside her stomach or whatever. That being like a whole setup later on for the cake and her mother spitting it out because she thinks she's like a farm girl. Yeah. And it all comes back in on itself at that point. There's lots of cleverness hidden in the movie like that, which I wasn't expecting, because I had memories from watching it the first time too and it not really connecting, but it was a long time ago now, 2009. I liked it a lot this time.
Awesome.
I don't think I got it the first time.
Yeah, it had a lot of rainy staples and stuff.
Yeah, I definitely missed it the first time.
I liked it, but I thought it was way too goofy. And I guess something that even bothers me now is some of the CGI. I think some of that takes me out of it. I get it's campy, but it's kind of an excuse.
Like the eyes popping out and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little over the top. I love the car fight. I think when they're fighting in the car, that was
such a good scene. And the music that goes along with it. Yeah, let's not forget about the score. The music is great in this film.
That whole scene's great. That's like the first like escalation into like full camp that you get in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's just funny because it just keeps escalating more and more. Like it starts a little silly and then it's like she's crashing into one car, she's crashing into another car. They're like busting out the windows and it just keeps like getting more and more insane.
It keeps going and going.
Yeah.
I feel so starved for really good camp because there's a lot of campy movies that kind of use that as like an excuse not to do anything impressive, right? They're like, oh, it's campy, so we don't actually have to try with the acting or the character writing, and it's just like a Band-Aid.
Or the story.
But I like
a
movie that's campy and it's competent
like
at the same time. And Sam Raimi is so good at that. I wish he would direct more of these.
It's because it's Sam Raimi. Like that scene is so visceral. It's so exciting and like scary. There's a lot of moments like that in this movie.
He understands tension and how to build up.
He understands how to tell a story.
Yeah. He understands the filmmaking elements that make it all come together. Because it's not scary, but at the same time, the way it's presented and the way the tension is built up can kind of catch you up in the moment. Like it really gets you engaged. It's so cartoonish and like exaggerated.
No, it may be over the top, but at least it's memorable and you're excited by it. Yeah. And there are those moments where you're actually into it. Like, this is kind of scary if you're into this character and this world. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're kind of torn the whole time. It's like, on one hand, you're rooting for her. On the other hand, you're like, I don't know, like her motivations.
I wanted to see Stu suffer a little bit, being perfectly honest. I was
he
got
mad fired
at
the end, but
I know. I wanted to see him
come up.
I wanted to see. I
think that's the
something.
thing is like, everyone's rooting for him to get the button.
Yeah, because he's not. He doesn't. It doesn't matter if he gets fired. He'll find some other people to take advantage of in his life. He's gonna cry and pretend he's sorry for. That character's not done being a complete asshole. So. Yeah,
the fact that he cried to her and she let him go, and
like,
he still tried to blame it on her was crazy.
I was so mad.
Yeah, I took it as he's so pathetic he could never accomplish anything. He's just done. Like, he's just such a loser. He couldn't even do anything. But every character gets their kind of like a great ending. Like it's just a natural comeuppance.
Yeah.
So in terms of the writing, when everybody saw this for their first time, nobody saw the twist coming? Is that a correct assumption?
I can't really remember.
I think that I didn't, although it's hard to remember my first watch.
I'm happy that I didn't see it coming.
Oh, that's cool.
As soon as she drops the envelope, though, you're like, oh, there's going to be a switcheroo.
Yeah,
why else would she drop it? And they have a separate shot of it falling.
Because they make it they make it so that you're not confident about it, but
because they work in his coin habit early and then kind of let enough time pass that you might forget about it.
They do it really well. It's really well written, I think. Even if you see it coming, it doesn't matter.
It's not just a case of it being super early in the film, but the way that the scene is structured around it, it's in the middle of introducing character development, basically. So Alison Lohman, her job, her farm, blah, 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 blah. She works with money. Justin Long, nerdy. And then immediately before you can even think about a nerdy coin collection, and that serves its purpose as being a character moment. And then immediately we're distracted by the speakerphone conversation with his mother. So it's tucked in there. It's
There's a lot
not
of
something you missed.
Yeah.
They didn't do a whole close-up, hey, everybody notice how I put this in this bag and this is what it looks like. There was a tiny shot of him putting it in the envelope. But aside from that, it didn't really feel like the film was ever begging you, please remember this. It was just oh, this is there.
Yeah.
It's there.
And it didn't feel out of place because everyone was kind of getting quirks. Yeah, so you kind of believed in the moment, this is just a character quirk because he was doing it with other characters.
He called himself
Whereas
nerdy.
in another film, if no other characters get traits or quirks or whatever, it would stand out more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It works well.
I don't know. The distraction's a good word. There's a lot of jump scares in the movie that are kind of cheap.
How do you feel about those?
There's a couple that I don't like, and there's a couple that I do like. There's some that are just so funny,
because I just don't naturally like jump scares. I think they're lazy. I like Midsommar, where there's no jump scares or something like that. It's just lazy. The sound mixing was obnoxious.
I don't know if I would say all of them are lazy.
And I get it's because it's PG-13. I had to compensate. I just hate jump scares. I just think it's so cheap. That would be one of my complaints or criticisms with the movie.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't watch it again. Just because I don't want it. It's just fucking loud. I'm going to annoy my neighbors. It is. It's a very loud movie.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. The whole movie is done so in such a tongue-in-cheek way that, sure, it's not a specifically direct commentary on jump scares, but it almost could be. I don't feel upset at it.
But that's not as clear. I feel there's so many other the banking allegory or even you pointing out the kind of bulimia subtext. That was all eye-opening. I totally see that in the movie. That not so much. I don't know.
No, because there's some that are clearly done for laughs though. The handkerchief coming to the car and then
it's definitely
popping up on her windshield.
Yeah.
Right?
I just mean the comedy elements. I don't know. I like a movie like Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 much more because I think I really like Bruce Campbell and I think I like the lead. And this lead character, I don't think the actor is as good or as like iconic as someone like Bruce Campbell. And I think that dragged it down.
She had some things
like,
at the time.
I think part of it is like, imagine the way that Ash is written versus this character. You know, it's a much more grounded character.
They're very different.
Like, I can't think of a different performance she could have given with this like script that would have been, you know, more of a standout thing. Because she was mostly like the straight man with a lot of weird stuff that was happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's some funny parts with her. I thought the scene where she's eating like ice cream, like because she's so upset.
And when she's she gets a little crazier toward the end.
Yeah,
she gets crazier, and then you know when she gloats after the car fight, that had like a lot of.
Or at the end when she shoves the paper down her throat, like in the cemetery. Yeah.
There's
it's definitely a campy horror film.
Sequence.
There's so many like it's definitely benefited
Choke on
by
it,
being
bitch.
campy. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, like that.
So
or
satisfying.
the goat. The goat was iconic. As soon as you see the goat, you're like, okay, it's a Sam Raimi movie. This goat is gonna like become a puppet at some point.
You black-hearted
that was great.
It's so funny.
Well, the goat, that scene becomes very like funny toward the end because the goat isn't sacrificed. It has like a human like face and it gets angry. But at the beginning, I thought that scene was actually pretty like intense and scary. Like they're gonna sacrifice this goat. Like this is really kind of like Midsommar like scary stuff.
Yeah, and they tie it up next to her and it's like smiling at her.
It's smiling,
like, oh, no,
it's kind of foreboding. It's funny, but it's
Mm-hmm.
scary. It works really well, and I love that set that they're in when they have that
some
seance.
great sets.
I think that's an excellent
Yeah, it was
set.
almost like the Winchester Mystery House, the exterior
but
of
it's
that house.
it's so big and like
I love
detailed.
the
There's so much stuff
stunts
in it.
as well.
Yeah.
Excellent stunts. Oh yeah, the demon is like crazy. Like it doesn't even like it's just like possessing 3 different people and throwing people around. Like it doesn't care. It's a very scary demon. It's campy, but I don't know. There's like nothing you can do to stop it.
Surprising amount of restraint though in the way it's often relegated to shadows and things. So like when it's the shadow of its legs turns into you know hands. It's just it's constantly creative and it's always mixing it up to avoid that repetition movies of this type can often fall into.
Yeah, it's essentially showing a lot of things that might have been in Evil Dead if it was created in 2009, you know, with the same budget and restraints.
It's like a 2000s version of Evil Dead, right? It's very much like Ring. Like the Ring, 7 days until you die. This is like 3 days until you die. There's like a countdown element. You have to, I don't know, stop the demon before it takes over your soul or something. Like there's always an element. I feel like
the era it came out, like I remember when it came out being really excited about it because I feel like in this era of horror movies, like horror definitely goes in cycles as to like what kind of creature
trends
or like genre is in vogue. Yeah, so right now it's more like Conjuring and like a lot of indie witch horror that's like, you know, kind of
ghosts,
copying Hereditary and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. All those knockoffs. But I feel like in that era of horror, it was a lot more grounded. It was a lot more like Saw and slasher, and like I think like My Bloody Valentine was around this time too. So it's a lot of just like gore and violence, like the Hostel era, the Human Centipede.
They were hitting just the end.
So
of
I
that
feel like
era.
it was kind of a time with like, it was like kind of a dearth of just spooky supernatural horror with like curses and stuff. So I've always preferred that kind of horror. So I was like, you know, it's refreshing to see that when it's so counter to what was coming out at that time. I feel like if it came out now, everyone would assume it was like a parody of the Conjuring franchise. But at that time, it was like not really like anything
it would feel
that was
like
coming
a
out.
response. This came out just as the found footage wave was starting.
Right. I loved the found footage wave. So many like crazy movies. But Paranormal Activity kind of put ghosts back in fashion.
Yeah.
Before that, they were considered kind of like old timey and not that scary.
Yeah, that really grounded ghosts made them like realistic again.
Exactly.
I guess. They added a level of realism to it. But this movie, the ghosts aren't realistic at all. It's just like goofy demon throws people around.
And I feel like that makes it better,
so
like
funny.
looking at it in hindsight and being like, there were no movies like this being made at that time in the horror genre. It was kind of its own weird
pick a time. It's like Sam Raimi is one of few people doing this competently, and he doesn't do it every year.
But even like the subject matter and stuff, like I feel like if someone that was not him was trying to get the script made that year, it just never would have happened. So that kind of adds to its charm.
Yeah, a lot of the same people that worked on Evil Dead were credited. I believe Ivan Raimi,
it's
Rob
really
Tapper.
a return to form.
I don't remember if Greg Nicotero worked on Evil Dead. I think he did.
It's a really good horror film, like especially it made so much money, and like that's great. Like it's like a mainstream horror film that made a lot of money, and it's really effective and funny and scary and has a lot going on. It's unconventional.
I didn't know if it was that big of a success at the time.
I don't know.
So
I'm looking it up right now. Budget of 30 million, and worldwide made 90 million. So
90 million.
Successful enough.
I think that's pretty
not
good.
a failure. Yeah.
I think that's a good budget too. Like that's
for 2009 too.
Yeah.
I'm sure though for horror, a studio would look at that and be like, you can make a paranormal activity for $2 million.
Right.
$5.
Well, that's what
Like,
Paranormal Activity proved.
$500 million
Paranormal
back.
Activity cost like $10,000, $20,000.
Yeah.
Not even joking.
Yeah.
And like that made $100 million. So of course.
Well, I'm sure the majority of the budget was just advertising it. Yeah. So I feel like
but
it was
not
by
every
the
movie
power
can
of Sam
be
Raimi that it was made. Yeah.
Sam Raimi's power is making a film like this. That's really campy and using the visual medium. Like it's a very visually strong movie. Yep. Like there's a lot of images I remember from it, like the nails on the desk.
I love how that was revealed. Yeah. You hear it first, and then that's the first part you see of her, and then you see her face. I love that.
He's a very visually strong director, and that adds a lot to the movie. And Paranormal Activity is different. Like I get just watching found footage can be scary because there's no style to it, I guess, because it's more objective. But this works
and it's very
too.
quiet, so you can have jump scares more
and this is
effectively
supposed
because
to be
it's just
funny.
silent.
Like it's really supposed to be funny. Ultimately, I think this movie, and I think it works as that 100%.
I've noticed an interesting parallel too, in that the film Sam Raimi followed Drag Me to Hell up with was a Disney prequel remake live action thing.
Oh no, was it the Oz movie?
Oz the Great and Powerful.
I never watched it.
I never watched
like James
that.
Franco or something.
I saw it in theaters because I love Sam Raimi.
I saw it, yeah.
It's fun.
I remember nothing about it.
I saw clips of like Mila Kunis as the Wicked Witch, and it was like the worst thing I'd ever seen.
Anne Hathaway is like the Good Witch.
It's just one of those live action.
That sounds like it could be good. I just feel like Mila Kunis is like not equipped to do camp, whereas I feel like Anne Hathaway, you're like, oh, she could probably do camp in like a fun way. Yeah, but Mila Kunis, I don't know. I don't think that's her skill set.
She's been in like unironic camp, like American Psycho 2,
Yeah. Yeah, she's unintentionally been in several campy things.
Yeah. It's a very strong movie visually because Sam Raimi's a good director. And storytelling-wise, pacing's great.
Yeah, it didn't feel like there was any part where it lagged or like felt like you were seeing filler. It was just constant progression and escalation.
It's always a good scare somewhere. If it gets boring, someone pops out, there's a jump scare, and an anvil gets dropped on their head. It's really unexpected. I thought those moments were kind of funny, even though I complained about the jump scares. Like, I don't know, when she's in the shed and like the woman pops out and like starts attacking her. I did not see that coming at all. Right? It's like a really good scare. Like there's a lot of animal sacrifice in this movie. That's like really disturbing, I think.
I'm a vegetarian. I volunteer at the puppy shelter.
That's one of the best lines.
Getting her to
it shows
kill
you
the
how
cat
scared she is of this demon. Like there's never any doubt. Like this woman
well, and I
is
felt
terrified.
like the cat thing was kind of a good like continuation of because we had the characterization where she's at the bank. I felt like the cat was the direct continuation of that. Because it's like all these points in the story where she like fancies herself a good person, where it's like she's at the bank and she's like, I'm a nice person. I try to help whoever I can. But then as soon as she like needs to benefit herself, she's willing to like essentially sacrifice this old woman by screwing her over. So then you see that again with the cat where she's like, I would never do that. I'm a nice person. And like, the same night she's prepared to sacrifice the cat because she thinks it'll help her. Yeah. So
she shames,
that was kind of the recurring thing with her.
She flat out lies like a lot to people. Like, oh yeah, my boss told me to cancel her mortgage or whatever.
Yeah, she lies to the daughter.
She just flat
says,
lies
I did everything I could to help her. Yeah.
Right. And there's never any like redeeming that. Like she never apologizes for those lies. Like, so it is the ending is perfect. She actually gets.
It is perfect. She deserves it.
She deserves it. There's no other way to say it.
But then how do we think that ties in with the eating disorder narrative? Like what does the ending then take from that? Is she supposed to be punished for that?
I mean, you could tie it in to think like maybe they're trying to say that an eating disorder will lead you down this path, not necessarily literally being dragged to hell, but like it will destroy your relationships. It will, make you ugly.
Like she kind of doomed herself in a way.
Yeah, like it's
That's
self-harm. I think that kind of idea.
Yeah.
Because Yeah, if we're especially if we're going to say that like she kind of brought this on herself, this whole thing, it's like, it's self-inflicted.
Well, yeah, she did.
Much like eating disorders can be.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know about the subtext.
I see what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to do.
I'm giving it some
just
credit.
seemed like, I mean, and maybe those two are disconnected in this
I don't think
story.
the film is trying to be that deep. I think there's definitely something going on there for sure. But I think it's mostly trying to be funny with the dumb eyes popping out. I appreciate that stuff's in there, and it's not just like dumb cotton candy kind of doesn't.
Yeah,
give
I don't
you
know.
anything.
I feel like I would have to rewatch it because it's like I feel like you don't seed something like that through the whole movie without it ultimately meaning something. But
sure.
I can't
I
think
didn't
of
even
what
pick
he'd
up
be
on
trying
it.
to say about it.
Yeah, I missed it.
Just because of my experience, I just paid attention to the banking stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like a sociopathic. It made her into a sociopath, and she turned down this woman's bank loan. So now this woman put a hex on her that destroyed her life, and it's an allegory about how capitalism or whatever.
Yeah, it seems like if you wanted to be
like
uncharitable to him, you could imagine like, oh, maybe he's saying that like an eating disorder is like a manifestation of vanity, and like that's kind of, she buys the coat at the end. She's constantly trying to like social climb and better herself. So it's like, is that what he's trying to say? Like she's being punished for like vanity, but then that's kind of an unfair take on eating disorders and like what causes them,
especially from Sam Raimi. Like I don't know if he has a lot of experience.
Yeah, and I kind of imagine he can't have like that much contempt for eating disorders. But yeah, I mean, maybe it could be about how like any form of self-harm is like, it's kind of a fable against self-harm behavior. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I'd have to rewatch it through that lens and try to figure out what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
All right, what would you give it out of 10 if you wanted to give it a rating out of 10?
I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10.
Same. 8.
Yeah, same.
Adam, I saw you
Cool
rated
stuff,
it 10 out of 10. That's a very extreme rating.
No, I gave it an 8.
Oh, you did? I saw somewhere. Maybe
When did
because
you
it was
see
on
that?
Letterboxd, I guess.
Oh.
My brother told me you gave it a 10 out of 10. I
That's
guess
not
because of
true.
campy reasons, right? Okay.
No, I gave it an 8.
I'm sorry about that. 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Are you gaslighting me? I don't understand what's happening.
I'm sorry.
He's trying to pull receipts
No,
on you.
I was just wrong because I thought you gave it a 10.
Okay.
I guess it made sense because like I totally understood why, like the campy elements, like I love those too. I still wouldn't go 8 out of 10 though.
Yep.
Because I think it's not quite like Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
And like there's a few elements, like I think the lead actress, I thought she was good, but I think they could have gotten someone a little better. I don't know, like the jump scares really bothered me. I think some of the subtext with like the eating disorder, maybe it's like too much. Maybe like more of a 7 out of 10. It's
Sure.
very campy fun. I really like it. I think Evil Dead is better, or like Shaolin Soccer.
That's
But
very
this is like
different.
a really, it's almost like, I definitely get the appeal of it. When it came out, it was a big deal because it's a return to form of Sam Raimi making horror films again with all those same people. And it's really funny and it's really well done. I don't want to take away from it.
Sure.
But yeah, more objectively, it's like a 7, I think. Like, I really think that there's some really funny parts in it though, like that car fight or like the anvil. Yeah, it's a great like campy horror movie.
Awesome. I'm glad we all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thanks for recommending it. I'm glad
No
I saw
problem.
it again.
Yeah, good
I'm
pick.
glad I got to
Yeah.
rewatch it.
'Cause I liked it. I think a
Yeah,
little
same.
bit better this time because I
Awesome.
think I had it as a 3 before.
Oh,
now
I
it's a
massively
3.5.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I thought it was really
I went
funny
from a
this
3
time.
to a 4.
And I was watching it with other people, and they were like really uncomfortable during some parts, like when she vomited
funny.
into her napkin.
All the gross
like,
out.
Yeah, like it was great just seeing people like they couldn't even look at the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
She's
okay
got,
for like
gum.
gore movies and stuff, but when it comes to like bile and
That's-
stuff, I am really like squeamish. So I
Yeah.
was deliberately like, okay, I remember enough to know
The
when to look
PG-13
away.
made it like the scares are much more creative and like yeah,
That's
like
an interesting
bugs
way to
and
look at it.
vomit. It's gross. I don't know.
Okay, let's do some questions from the Sardonicast community. If you want to leave your own questions, head over to the subreddit where there'll be a suggestion thread where you can ask whatever you feel like. Butter467 is going to start us off. Question for Jenny Nicholson, but of course the other Sards can answer as well. Since you did a whole marathon on the Land Before Time movies for a video, are there any other movie franchises you want to marathon for a video like that? talked a little bit about it earlier with Saw, but what else have you got on the brain?
Saw. I've already done a marathon of all, I think there are 38 canonical Barbie movies, but I also watched some from the 80s and stuff. So I spent weeks and weeks watching every Barbie movie, and I've already done my write-ups on all of them, but now it's just a matter of shooting and editing this gargantuan, probably 3-hour video.
Yeah,
so I've shot, I think, 20% of it. But it's going to be quite a project. And then I also have seen... I had seen all of the Swan Princess sequels, but they've since made another one, so I'm behind again. But I would like to eventually do a ranking of all of those as well, because those ones are crazy. They're very strange.
Didn't even know.
And I think that's it.
Interesting.
Barbie, Saw, and the Swan Princess films.
Yeah.
It's a very
I have to really like a franchise or think it's interesting to do it because very labor-intensive videos, having to go through all those movies for clips and edit them all together.
When there's so many of them.
It's fun marathoning stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There were so many, and some of them were rough. I watched the topics I was the most interested in up front, and then by the time I got to the latter half of the list, I was like, oh, another Barbie puppy adventure. Those are the worst ones. They just kept getting worse at a certain point. So it became kind of a slog. But I don't know, watching them all in such close proximity was a very immersive experience.
I'm glad you survived.
Aren't there American Girl movies?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I could do American Girl. I don't know if every doll got a film, though. But that would be fun. I could go to the American Girl Cafe that they have at the Grove.
Yeah,
and
I saw they sold
do a
those
little
at
tea
Walmart.
party. They sell American
so
Girls
weird.
at Walmart?
Yeah, I saw they sold some American Girl movie. That's the only reason I know about it. It's right in the
American
front.
Girls are some high-end products. Those are $200
they have their own
dolls.
store. It's crazy.
There's a surprising amount of...
I want to go to it. The store has a tea party.
Yeah.
There's a surprising amount of sequels for Dragonheart. If you look at
Oh,
IMDb.
God. How many?
At least 5, I think.
I also, 1 year, I would love to do all the Halloween Disney Channel original movies.
Oh, wow.
That's a good genre, too.
Wow.
Rank them all. But there are a lot of those, too. And then there's a lot of stuff that's, arguably Halloween, but, maybe not Halloween. It's a fine line.
How about High School Musical?
But,
have you seen those?
There's only 3 of those,
I don't think I would do a video on them. There's 4, I think.
I had to listen to the soundtrack of that
those
when I worked at HMV. So...
Yeah, there are just 3. But, I don't think they're worthy of content.
Yeah. Those are
I
bad.
feel like there's just not much to say about those ones, unless someone was doing a fashion commentary or something. I feel like these fashion channels could do a good video about it.
I am very heavily wanting to, and with my schedule, not this year, but maybe next year, I'm very heavily wanting to do a series review on Final Destination. I think I have a lot to say about
I love the Final Destination movies.
I feel like with those, it's you either like those or Saw most of the time. So I was more of a Saw kid, but I feel like usually people kind of pit them against each other.
I loved both of them. I thought they were great, especially the second one.
There's more than 2.
Second.
There's 4, right?
There's 5.
There's 5.
Oh, you meant both franchises. Both franchises.
But I love the second one especially. The second one is really good, and I think that's the best one, actually.
What was the disaster in the 4th and 5th movie? Because didn't it go plane, car crash, roller coaster?
It went from the first one's an airplane crash.
No, but the big catastrophe. Yeah, the
one was an escalator.
Roller coaster.
I think. I don't remember.
An escalator?
I don't remember.
The 4th one, there's 2. It's a racetrack, and then there's an escalator crash or escalator.
Oh, the racetrack one was lame. I remember that one.
Yeah, but then there's a mall, kind of the mall burns down or something.
The escalator sounds cool.
Oh yeah, they're
gets destroyed. Yeah,
I think they put the characters in a movie theater. Yeah, and there was a fire outside, and they were if you're watching this in theaters, this could happen to you right now.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
The 5th one was a bridge accident. Just to wrap it up.
Oh
yeah,
that was a bridge car accident.
That was a CG mess.
God, it's all so hazy.
I like that one. I like the bridge accident. The best one is the second one, the car accident.
Oh, of course.
Seeing all the trucks crash into each other and they fucking blow up in fiery explosions.
That
was the best.
I like the
or a guy
one.
gets a log shoved through his head in his car.
Terrifying.
It's awesome. Awesome. So good. I love that stuff.
JoJo's Crazy Reddit has one for us. So I've heard that Bong Joon-ho is going to be directing a South Korean animated feature film about underwater creatures, and this got me wondering, what film director would you guys love to see enter the world of animation? For example, I'd love to see Quentin Tarantino direct an R-rated animated film, like that sequence he did in Kill Bill Volume 1.
He kind of already did.
I have a good answer. Jenny, do you have any?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like when I watch animated films, I'm not thinking so much about the director. Like, they feel like such studio productions that I don't even feel confident it would, like, impact it that much, you know?
I feel that way for a lot of animated films, but there are some... So, like, Anomalisa is very much like a one-voice thing, and, you know, Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs is a very much Wes Anderson thing, right? So, really depends on the director, and it also depends on how much of a grip that, or how much money goes into it, especially. It's just how much of their voice stays in the project. I mentioned this in the other episode. I'm waiting for, like, a really personal one-voice computer-animated film, because I can name them for other types of animations. And when I say that, I mean feature length. So please stop recommending me short films in the audience.
Yeah, I was only thinking computer animated because I was like, that's all they're making right now, you know?
I know.
But, yeah, I don't know. I guess actually I'll say Rian Johnson because I know he likes musicals and stuff like that. Like he's into Broadway and all that.
Oh, interesting.
And so I feel like he would make like an interesting musical if he ever did. And especially if it was animated, that could be fun. So I guess that'll be my answer.
Okay. My answer is a little complicated, but director Christopher Nolan, I think you all know him. He's a big fan of these guys, Brothers Quay. He's a huge fan of these animators. And they're like these twin brothers who make like animated movies together. He's clearly like inspired by that style with even his live action movies. And I think he could make a really good movie just in the style of like the Quay brothers just doing that. Just like, you know, because he's clearly inspired by it, you know. I think he directed a movie called Quay, I think it's called. So that would be my answer.
What about you, Alex?
My mind jumps to very visual filmmakers like Edgar Wright. I think he's such an he's already such an animated director.
Could,
I feel like
I could really see him doing like a CGI animated movie.
He already almost storyboards like exactly like an animated movie.
Exactly.
Already,
Yeah.
So I feel like
Yeah, definitely. His style, or like Sam Raimi's style, they seem very animated. Just watching Drag Me to Hell just now. The shot composition, all that. It's like an anime or almost, you know, very cartoonish.
You could kind of argue that it's already an animated film with Gravity, but Alfonso Cuarón, I feel like his style basically could translate quite well into with the visual language that could be really strong if you had the right idea.
Yeah, it would be very different for sure.
I rewatched Requiem for a Dream a couple nights ago, and I think Darren Aronofsky would probably do really well in the animated genre. He obviously loves anime. He bought the rights to Perfect Blue before creating Requiem for a Dream, just so he could use the tub
he
shot,
likes
apparently.
Perfect Blue?
Yeah, he bought the American screening rights to Perfect Blue, so nobody could accuse him of ripping off the screaming in the tub shot. And then people accused him of that anyway, so who knows how.
Yeah, that's right. Requiem for a Dream, that's right. He took this. Well, he didn't. I don't know about rip off. It's all paying.
I mean,
homage.
if he literally bought the rights to the film, it's not like it's not like he's pretending.
It's a soft reboot.
Yeah,
he's done a remake
of it. It's just like a one shot, and then there's other parallel shots to like Black Swan and stuff. The guy obviously loves some anime. He loves some Satoshi Kon or whatever. So I would love to see him tackle that, and just the strong visual elements of Requiem for a Dream. Watching that again, like this weekend, just so good. Like I could see that working well in animation. So that's my answer.
That's a good pick actually. TG Watzes says, now that we have both a furry and a My Little Pony expert on the podcast, do you have any experiences with the Brony community you'd like to share?
Oh, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
What's the Brony response been?
To the video?
Mostly positive, I think. Obviously, you mostly hear from the ones who are like mad. So a lot of the saucy fan artists were like mad because they didn't watch my video, I think. Because, you know, if you've watched it, I wasn't really coming down hard on that. The only thing I condemned was specifically like saucy art of child characters. So like some of the people who were mad were drawing it of child characters. So, you know, that I guess it was directed at them. But then a lot of other people were just like drawing saucy fan art of other characters. And they were like, oh, she's making this like puritanical video, like making fun of us for drawing like porn of the ponies. And it was just like, I don't know. I think someone even went on like a podcast. They called into someone's like live stream or podcast and were like complaining about all these things that I hadn't said. And finally, like the people in the chat were like, none of that's in the video. And they were like, oh, well, I didn't watch it. I just read like a Twitter thread that was angry about it. And I was like, okay, that explains it.
No, they never.
But I think most of the bronies were like supportive of it. You know, the ones that watched it all the way through, I think were good. Maybe some of them like rage quit in the first half hour because I hadn't like explained yet that I had been in the fandom. So they just like presumed that I hadn't been. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely overlap between the furry and brony community.
Yeah.
I mean, like, a lot of bronies are also furries, because why not? I mean, it's just a more specific property, whereas furry just encompasses...
Yeah, it's a circle inside the Venn diagram.
Yeah. Furry encompasses a concept, and brony encompasses a specific property within that concept. So, yeah, there's a bit of overlap. I had some friends trying to convince me to go to a local brony thing, and I was like, why? They're like, no, yeah, we're just gonna like party there. I'm like, we can party somewhere else. What really makes me not as excited to do like a brony thing, and no offense to bronies, but there's a lot of lower age range, you know, not only in the participants, but also like it's a show that's for lower age range. Not to say that you can't enjoy it as an adult or whatever, but I'm happy with the furry community. I'm happy with the demographics there. It's like a big family, you know. It's a lot of people I hang out with. I don't want to show up even with other furry friends and then just be like, let's have a room party away from this convention that's happening. It's like, well, you don't really need the convention. We can just do that. We can have a party at someone's house.
You can just get a hotel and have a party.
Like, I'm not going to hang out with children or anything. You're not going to hang out with children. So, like, why are we... I don't know. I feel
like a lot of the hotel parties would be, like, furry parties. And then, like, you know, the after parties would just be, like, the furries would post a banner, like, come to this furry party, like, after the con. And they would have, like, free alcohol. And, like, you know, they'd bring their own, like, disco lights and stuff. It was, like... You know, you could tell it was these people that were very experienced with cons that, like, predated the brony community. Like, did you ever go to a con with the Klingon party at it?
Oh, yeah, I have.
Yeah, those guys are crazy. They, like, decorate the whole room like it's a starship.
Yeah, that's the thing at... was that at FC or MFF? But, yeah, I was at the Klingon room. It was awesome.
It's such, like, an ambitious party, and they do it, like, completely complimentary. They have, like, a tip jar. Like, but everyth's just, like, they just show up to random cons to like throw an incredible party for everybody. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, come to a furry convention.
I should. I've never been to a furry convention. I've just been to brony conventions.
I will be your spirit guide.
I have been to the Prancing Skill Tear, one of their parties, which I didn't realize until after the fact were like the inventors of the furry fandom. I watched like a documentary on them. But yeah, because I used to just live really close to that house. And someone just brought it up like, hey, there's this crazy furry house party that happens once a month. And I was like, oh, I'll go to it. And it was like surreal. Like it was a whole house that belonged to furries. So like all the decor was like furry decor. Like they had all these shelves up high that were like plushies of like Fievel and Land Before Time characters and stuff like that. And a lot of Lion King. I know furries really love the Lion King. But yeah, just crazy. It's a crazy community because it does seem like a lot of people that are just like willing to altruistically like throw these parties for everybody else to have a good time. And it's very welcoming. So yeah, I should go to a furry convention sometime.
Do it.
I need a fursona.
You will be assigned a fursona. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
Make the Line has one for us. When indulging in a series that's been released chronologically out of order, Star Wars, Halo, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, etc., how do you typically go through them? By release order or chronological order?
Typically, I would say release order.
Yeah,
I would also say release order, but also I've never sat down and watched every Star Wars in a row anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say definitely release order.
I would say release order. I don't like humans imposing their will. Like, yeah, this is the order you made them. You know, you don't get to.
Yeah, the release order is also like the original vision of the story.
Yeah,
like, you know,
exactly.
if they've released it in a different order, it's
Real
still set up with all the like info you need in the order that you need it, regardless. So yeah.
I would like to see a fan edit of all of the Saw films in one, but chronologically.
Ooh,
Oh,
yeah,
see, that
I'd
would
watch
actually be interesting because Saw is confusing.
Yeah.
I bet I
Yeah.
could
Very
do it.
interesting.
I
All
think
7
I
movies?
would have a good understanding of what
I would
belonged
actually
where.
watch that if you did it.
Oh,
'cause
yeah?
that would be insane, especially with how much the flashbacks like negate former things that have happened.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very
It
muddled
wouldn't even make
franchise.
sense.
No, I would love
just-
that
It would
though.
be so
Hand left.
chaotic.
Oh,
It wouldn't even
Amanda's
make
there
any
too.
sense if he did that.
Yeah, yeah, you have to cut in other characters with like green screen effects.
Yeah.
You would have to reshoot scenes to
Yeah.
make it make sense.
It works. You don't understand. It's not contradictory. They planned this
Right.
from the beginning.
There's a
Ralph.
Saw Bible.
Oh yeah, the one vision the whole time.
Yeah. Everything makes sense.
Yeah, they've been planning it out even
Yeah.
till now.
Yeah, he's got a creepy notebook with like everything from start to finish for Saw.
Yeah, Chris Rock. Chris Rock came up with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been so good. I don't care what excuses they have. My favorite thing about Saw is them basically retconning the story. That's like one of my favorite things about
Me
Saw.
too.
They do that
Especially
every
because so many of the
movie.
middle movies are like disappointing.
They
You're
do.
like, yes,
Every
undo it by
Yeah.
all means.
They were also helping Jigsaw.
Yeah, the only scene I remember from the film Jigsaw is like when Dr. Gordon comes back, and that was like the greatest moment of cinema of like my entire life. So like creepy, campy Dr. Gordon comes in with a cane.
The only thing I remember about that movie is how mad I was with the stupid "we're doing the same twist again" thing, where it's like this was before the other movies. You thought it was after,
Yeah.
but they used like newer flat screen TVs when later in the
Yeah.
time Saw 1 Jigsaw uses like an old tube TV. I'm like, come on, either you did that deliberately or
Yeah.
you don't care. Like,
And also, that's been the exact twist for like 5 of the different Saw movies. It's
Exactly.
like, you were mistaken about the timeline. And it's like, you can only do
Yeah.
that a couple times before it stops being shocking.
yeah. Jigsaw is dead, but this whole movie happened before he died. Trick
Yeah,
you.
in the past, before he died.
Yeah, that's the twist.
And he's got a million like disciples that he
Yeah.
trains. That
Keep
he
it
somehow had,
going.
like essentially
Bring
a
back
night
Tobin
ball.
Bell.
Part.
I
Good luck
wanted to
getting
go
one
the
person
cloner.
to agree to do this with you, but he's like, yeah, Amanda helps him out, but like,
Yeah, they just
so Amanda
flock
was a
to
good
him.
guy until she wasn't, but it turns out it was actually this other guy who's a cop who's actually working
Hoffman.
behind the scenes, and then
And then
puts
wasn't
Amanda
Gordon
in the
also his
trap.
disciple?
And then, yeah,
Like,
Gordon was
worked
also
for him as
helping
well.
as
It doesn't
well.
even make sense.
So
It's
many
so
people work for him.
convoluted.
Well,
It
because
makes
Jigsaw
no
like
sense.
nursed him back to health and gave him kisses and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the guy from the first movie is actually the guy who set it up the whole time. He was like actually the
Well,
mastermind.
no, he didn't work for him yet. After he cut off his foot, he's like, maybe this guy is
Yeah,
right
he-
about a couple of things.
Jigsaw gave him kisses and he felt better.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It's a hurt comfort fic. It's beautiful.
I want them to do like a secret twin reveal.
That's
Just-
what I
just
want
go
so
in.
Oh, they
bad.
should.
Like-
That's what
Like
everyone
Jigsaw never
Or clone,
died.
yeah.
It was his twin brother. Please do it. They just don't think it'll work, but it'll totally work.
Well, I remember like
I would
you see
scream
him
if
die,
that
and I was
happened.
thinking like, oh, he's got a trick up his sleeve.
would
He
come.
faked his death, and then the
You
fourth
would
movie
scream?
begins with his brain being like removed by an autopsy
Yeah.
person, and you're like, oh, I guess he did really die.
I'd scream with glee.
But he left a tape in his tummy.
wants. He would scream.
Let's do this one from Mr. Hollywood. People usually only ever see you from the torso up in your videos. I think we deserve to know, what shoes do each of you wear?
That's funny.
Fucking purple shit. Whatever's purple and comfortable, I don't care.
Purple,
Wow,
nice.
yeah.
I like purple.
In my videos,
like
I
purple
don't
shoes.
really wear shoes because I'm inside. I usually put my feet up on the chair out of frame. But I guess if I'm inside and I am wearing shoes, it's my Lightning McQueen Crocs because I use those to go to
Damn.
my garage. And like if I have
Yeah, I
to
got
take out
slippers
garbage or
inside,
something.
too.
You
Yeah.
got Jordans? I
No,
wish
I
I had
should.
Jordans.
Yeah, I'm a Kiwi. I don't wear shoes. It's just not
Yeah.
there.
The sandals.
Yeah, jandals.
I wear a lot of sneakers. Under Armour,
Nice.
Nike.
Mhm. Sneaky boy.
Is that one? A sneaky boy.
No, you're the sneaky boy.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm a sneaky boy. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, that was an easy question, I guess.
Sneaky boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple.
What about this one from QB Deizuki? Sorry for that. Any favorite sitcoms? I feel like you guys haven't talked about sitcoms very much in the podcast.
Oh, yeah. I usually don't like them, but Fresh Prince. I would say that's the one I like.
Okay.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I don't really watch like TV shows at all. let alone
Really?
sitcoms. I guess when I was a kid, I watched like Disney Channel, so I guess I'll say Sister Sister. It's the only one I can think of. I've never
like
seen
Wizards of
Friends
Waverly
or
Place.
any of that stuff. That was a little
Yeah, like
after my
those.
time.
Okay,
I heard it was
okay.
good though. It won Emmys and stuff.
Sure.
But,
I like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. I like that
wow.
one when I was a kid.
Okay.
I guess Seinfeld is good. Seinfeld's probably
Yeah,
the
I'm a
best.
Seinfeld fan.
Yeah, I haven't
Seinfeld.
watched any grown-up
I haven't watched it all the
sitcoms.
way through.
I'm not huge on Seinfeld. Bring on the hate, everybody. But I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's like the ideal version of Seinfeld that I like.
Well, do we mean a sitcom without a live audience or with a live
You
audience?
could have a sitcom without
what
it
is it
being
about
a sitcom.
Seinfeld?
Doesn't
Yeah,
need
like-
to be
Sure,
alive.
but I think people like to specify at least because like there's a difference
they didn't.
between Big Bang Theory and something like Seinfeld.
Well, yeah, because some people call like Arrested Development a sitcom. I guess I like
Yeah,
that one.
situational
but,
comedy.
Yeah, when I think sitcom, I think like studio
Yeah.
audience.
Or like The Office, but The Office doesn't have a live audience. You know, it's very different.
Yeah.
I think
The
it's much
Simpsons
more
yeah,
is
now
a
dry.
sitcom.
people can be very literal.
yeah,
I mean, I
Simpsons
like
is
The
a sitcom.
Simpsons.
But it's like an animated sitcom.
Seasons 1 to 3 of Arrested Development is a good answer. Seasons 1 to 3.
Yeah,
the
I
rest
never
don't matter.
watched the last season as with many people. So
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't even bother.
If you're gonna count without like a live audience, I love The Office. I think The Office is great until Steve Carell leaves, which is what
UK
everyone
or-
says.
okay.
But the UK one I
yeah.
like too. The Steve Carell one I like better. I think it's more my.
Did you guys
speed.
ever see Extras by Ricky Gervais? I felt like that was his
Yeah,
funniest
yeah.
series to me.
It is funny.
You should check it out. If you liked The Office, you should watch Extras. It's very funny.
Sure,
Yeah,
I bet
Extras
I'd
ain't
like
bad.
it. Freaks and Geeks, I bet I'd like that too. I haven't seen it.
Alex was asking why I didn't like Seinfeld.
Yeah, what's your problem with Seinfeld?
Yeah,
I don't have
I'm a bee.
a hatred towards Seinfeld, but it doesn't stick with me at all. And I feel like I've watched every single episode, but I also feel like I've watched one episode. You know?
Right.
Where it's like, if I just happen to be at someone else's house and there's a Seinfeld episode playing, or somebody shares a clip on Reddit or something, or I happen to see a moment from Seinfeld, this will happen like 200 different times. I'm like, oh, I've seen that. But in my memory, I've only watched like one. I don't remember
Sure.
watching all of these episodes.
That's part of the joy of it, you know? It's just like about nothing, you know?
I
It's, like,
do
so
think that's
unimportant.
kind of the appeal of it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're in the mood
Yeah.
for that kind of thing, which I am right now, like now I want to watch Seinfeld. But I think that's what's kept me away from it. Yeah, is that it's very I don't know, formulaic maybe.
Incredibly formulaic.
I don't even want to
It's the
insult
love
it
track
because
for me.
Seinfeld,
I can't stand
Seinfeld's
love
like he's a
tracks.
fucking genius. I don't even want to say. Jerry Seinfeld's a genius. Yeah,
Yeah, I love Curb Your Enthusiasm, though. I hope we see another season.
absolutely. He wrote on Seinfeld, right?
Yeah, he's a
Like David.
co-creator.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's co-creator on it.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
Curb Your
George based on
Enthusiasm.
him?
That's another great sitcom.
So have you
Not
seen all of
live
Curb Your
audience,
Enthusiasm?
but I've seen a lot of like the best episodes, like the one where he goes to the baseball game with the prostitute, or like, there's a lot of funny episodes of that shit. It's a really good show.
There's like an entire season where they do like a Seinfeld reunion subplot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where
Oh, yeah?
because Larry David is playing himself in the show, and so in the show
Right,
they do a
yeah.
Seinfeld reunion special, and yeah, it's really
Curb
funny.
is very
It's
funny.
So funny.
I still have to watch like the newer seasons, but I've seen like the best of. I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If you'd
Mhm.
count that as
Yeah.
a sitcom, I think that's
Oh,
really
yeah.
those characters are so like they're almost like despisable, but I think they're very funny too.
Oh, yeah.
They do a lot of unlikable things, but it's I guess a commentary on how shitty people are.
It's a commentary on eating disorders, Ralph. You didn't get it.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that.
It's about how they have to be punished.
Yeah, D has an eating disorder.
The trash man.
I think Danny DeVito really holds that show together, though.
Yeah.
Like second season when he showed up, that's when the show got
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, he does need to be
Yeah.
there, I reckon.
Yeah, he absolutely needs to be there. They're all great. I think all of them add something. Even D and Dennis. Mac with his like constant like weight loss and weight gain. Like I don't even understand what's going on.
It's like fat
It just
for a
depends on the
season.
episode. Yeah, he's just
Yeah.
fat for one season.
Ripped
Like,
for another.
it's very weird. Very bizarre humor. I love that stuff.
For
though.
me, though, the answer's Peep Show. Like, as far
Peep
as
Show?
British like, cringe humor. Yeah. Do you guys like that kind of like, you know, where it's like just so uncomfortable you actually want to.
Well, that's what
Rip
The
your
Office
face
is.
off.
And I think it's
Yeah,
funny,
it's
definitely,
like
but
that,
it's not like,
but
I don't know,
funny.
I don't like it as much as kind of
Because
dumb
I live for that kind of
American
stuff.
humor.
It must be like
I
a British
I feel
thing,
much
yeah.
more safe with like dumb The Office.
Right.
You know,
whereas Peep Show is about making you feel
smashing
bad.
a vending machine. Like that's much more safe to me.
I loved The American Office when it first came out, and I watched it all the way through up until, I don't know, mid-season 7 before I realized I wasn't laughing at anything and then never looked back. But
it's crazy how quick you can drop off of a show, like just like that. Like Heroes. I loved Heroes for 2 seasons. And
I
season
used
3.
to love Heroes.
You watched Heroes too? I loved Heroes until
I
season 3.
did. That was like one of the only shows I watched. I watched so little serialized TV because I didn't have like a TiVo in my room. So that made it kind of an impossible task to watch like serialized things. So I just would only watch like, you know, channels with movies playing and stuff. But Heroes, they would post every new episode on the NBC website, like with ads.
Yeah.
So I would watch it every week, and I was so into it. And I'm sure if I rewatched it, I would think it was dumb the whole time. But it got really dumb. Like even at that age, I realized how dumb it got.
Quinto.
Oh yeah, the
Zachary
cast was
Quinto,
so talented.
Hayden Panettiere. Like a lot of big people like that you've seen in other things.
I love that guy that plays Claire's dad. I don't remember I think Coleman, Coleman.
Olivia
he's like
Colman?
a character actor. He's not like in a lot. He's very talented, I think.
Don't look at me.
I think he's a good guy.
Yeah, I watched the British Office in the past few years and loved it, and I like it better than the American one. And I don't think I could go back and watch the American one. Not that they've tackled everything the same, but I've tried, like, even just watching clips on Reddit and stuff, I'm like, man, I feel like I grew out of it. Not to say, like, everybody who enjoys it as a child or anything like that.
I can see
but
that.
I don't gel with it anymore. Even the early stuff that I remembered fondly. I think it was good for its time. It stood out.
Yeah.
I think the characters are great.
Yeah.
I think Steve Carell.
Mockumentary
like the
style
actors too,
and all that, but...
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I think Steve Carell. I love all those actors.
It was refreshing for its time.
Dwight. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got
John
like a
Krasinski
golden era.
went on to do other things. That was cool.
he directed Quiet
Yeah,
Place.
and Pam was in. Pam was in Taking of Pelham, or no, not Taking of Pelham. What's that other one? 1517 to Paris.
Oh,
she's in that, which is pretty bad.
Let's do this one from Johnny the Fancy Man. What is more important? A good story with badly written characters or a bad story with really interesting characters?
Oh, shit.
Personally, I feel like the characters of the story are more important, but what do you guys think? Example, in my opinion, Tenet has a pretty cool story, but really boring characters.
I definitely say the latter. I really care about characters. I would say that Game of Thrones is a good example of a badly written story with well-written characters, for most of it anyway. Sure. But yeah, I always care more about characters, although I obviously care about things like themes and story and things like that. You know, I feel like the movie needs that to come together, but I think the movie will be worse if it has bad characters. So yeah, I would pick good characters.
Yeah, they're kind of the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, like Tarantino movies, very strong characters. Usually the plots are good, not as strong though. They're more about the characters. I don't think the plots are bad though, you know? Like, I don't think Hateful Eight, the plot is bad. I just think there's a lot of like character interaction. And I like that stuff. It just depends on what you're looking for. You know?
I don't know if I can think of a single example of a well-written movie with poorly written characters, because that makes the movie poorly written, right? The characters are characters are the subject that the plot is happening to. So if you have an interesting plot but shit characters, it means nothing, because if you don't, it's like you could have a murder happen, and if the character sucks, you're like, I don't care that they got murdered, or I don't care that their mother got murdered, or something, right?
I guess their example was Tenet, which I feel like Tenet was a good example.
I mean, I didn't like Tenet, so and I don't even think it had a great story. Honestly, if we're being perfectly honest, I don't think it had a good story.
Inherent Vice is a good one.
I like Tenet a lot, but those characters are not. It's not really the focus of the movie. Those characters.
Well, the thing is, like, my favorite thing about Christopher Nolan is like he writes such good monologues for his characters. Like, you know, Prestige is like my favorite one that he's done. And that one has so many like iconic lines and moments and monologues.
Or
and
the
like
Joker
Tenet
in Dark Knight
was just like action and like explaining the logistics of his sci-fi concept. So it was like so little to cling to, I guess.
I don't know. The characters in Tenet are so, because, you know, they're like people who went through time and stuff. They're so weird. Like, you can't even relate to them.
He is named protagonist.
Well, you don't learn that much about them.
He's literally named protagonist.
The main guy in Tenet, he's called the protagonist.
Exactly.
Like, he's lived through the whole thing and he's trying to reorganize it. Like, it's so odd.
Yeah, whenever they talk to each other, it's not about like what makes them a character or like how their dynamic is. It's like talking about the mission they're about to do, or explaining something about his sci-fi science. So it's like, it is, you can tell
Right.
he was probably really enamored of this concept for like a lot of years and just had thought about it for so long that he like really wanted to convey this like concept he'd thought of, and just completely ran out of time to like develop any characters, which made it not work for me. But
which is the theme of the movie, yeah. Inception has stronger character stuff, for sure. Tenet is not as focused on that. It's more focused on like the action and like the concept, which is really bizarre. And they have to, there's a lot of explaining for that.
I was just thinking, I was trying to wrap my brain trying to think of an example of a good story with badly written characters in a film.
It makes the story bad.
I thought of one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. The M. Night Last Airbender movie is kind of that problem. Because it's based off a good story, but the translation is missing all of the character writing in depth, which is what made it good. So it just has nothing.
Remakes.
I based off of a good story doesn't mean good story, though. So as a person who's never seen the original property,
but it was technically the same story, so I guess it counts.
It is beat for beat the same story. It's just badly told, and I would say the original story is good.
Compressed, though, too, right?
Yeah, it's condensed.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think that having bad characters makes the story bad. Like, the characters are an extension of this. They're a part of the story, right?
Yeah, fundamentally.
So it almost seems like oxymoronic. I don't know.
I think Tenet is a good example, though. That would be one of my criticisms with the movie. It's just not as focused on characters, you know? Because it is so weird. The concept's so weird.
Yeah, and I think The Last Airbender was a good example, because you're like, oh yeah, the story beats are physically there, but they're like hollow because they didn't develop any of the characters.
No vessel to connect to it.
The show, you get much more time to develop those people.
Yeah, or any show. I mean, I think a lot of people said that of Tenet is like, if only it had been like an HBO prestige miniseries or something like that. He probably could have done something better with it.
But then it wouldn't have had that pacing, you know? Like, that movie is so intense, I think. For me,
I'm sure he would have added more intense action scenes and stuff, though.
It's just not about the characters. It's about that experience of like going on that roller coaster ride. And if you like, okay, after an hour, we're going to take a break, like cut to credits, see you next week. That takes you out of it a little. I think Nolan understands like filmmaking. I don't know.
I think you could re-escalate. Yeah. You could have dialogue, and then you could re-escalate into the action scenes. You could add more action scenes in the middle. I'm sure there was more drama going on with those characters.
Yeah. I love the experience of just watching it all at once. You know, I think that's more what he wants to do. Yeah, the characters in that movie they're odd, for sure.
I think of like Zack Snyder too, whereas what has ruined, a few things have ruined his movies, but particularly stand out like is how weak his characters are.
Yeah, Nolan's just like, you know, Robert Pattinson's character in Tenet, his like that first scene when he's interacting with the protagonist. They had been with each other for like years at that point, from Robert Pattinson's point of view. Like, how do you even write that? It's so bizarre.
Yeah, you'd think he could have infused some kind of like warmth or fondness between them, given their backstory. But even when they reveal, there's like no emotional impact from that revelation.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah,
it's very concept heavy. Yeah,
very concept heavy.
It did feel like it had a skeleton that you could put good characters into and put a lot of drama into, but it just wasn't quite there.
Yeah. But I like the music. It's like very hypnotic.
I thought that was the coolest part, is like when he goes through like backwards in time or whatever. It feels very like scary and visceral. Like you hear his like breathing in your ears, and it helps you feel how like it's scary it is in a way that you probably couldn't if it was just like, you know, if it was just a distant shot and a lot of helicopter sounds, you'd be like, okay, he's running and getting shot at, whatever.
I don't know.
But I feel
would
like
not
having a more POV made it scarier.
I wouldn't want to be in that situation where I'd have to reverse in time. It seems pretty scary.
Good news.
Whenever he was like seeing stuff reverse, I think that's why I like that character, because whenever he saw stuff reverse in time, he was like really freaked out by it. You could tell. He's like, what the fuck is going on?
I don't know. I don't feel like that's a character, though. I feel like that's a, you know, it didn't, I don't know. I just didn't feel like we knew anything about him or his like personality. I felt like there was a well shot sequence, but I didn't feel like it assisted his character.
Yeah, because he's so odd. Such a, like, you don't know anything about him. And like when the movie's over, he kind of reorganizes everything to be in place when the movie starts, you know, like all those pieces that kind of pop up during the movie that you're like, or like Robert Pattinson showing up. How is that possible? It's because like the protagonist set it all up when the movie's over. It's like such a weird idea
Does it hold up on rewatch, or does it just get worse? Because I've only seen it once.
I watched it after I got my vaccine. Well, I watched it when I was sick. I liked it. I'm like, this is really trippy. It's so different. I get the character part of it, because I think the characters are like, they're so like the concept is so abstract. How do you even make a character like that relatable? Who's like going through time and shit like that. But I don't know. I thought the concept worked. I think he did the best he could. I like Tenet a lot.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 to 10, yeah.
The crazy music and the visuals. That's really what makes it.
All right, I guess that about does it for questions. Thank you, everybody, for your submissions.
Thanks, everyone.
Tenet.
And I guess we have a film recommendation. I believe it's from Ralph this time for next episode.
Is it really from me?
Well, last time was...
No, because I did Cure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
There we go.
Okay.
Are you prepared?
I'm going to recommend a movie from 2000 called Almost Famous.
Okay.
From director Cameron Crowe.
Haven't seen that one in a long time.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
I really love that movie. Super cool.
Have you seen it, Alex?
I haven't seen it, no.
Okay.
I've seen Vanilla Sky, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Cameron Crowe? Really?
You wrote it.
Oh, cool. I've seen Vanilla Sky and, the one it's based on. I forgot the name of it. It's like a Spanish movie.
So, if you don't want to get spoiled for Almost Famous, year 2000, directed by Cameron Crowe, watch it before the next episode of this podcast. These episodes come out every 2 weeks. You can listen to them early as they're edited by going to sardonicast.com, signing up for premium, $2 a month. Same with patreon.com/sardonicast. Also, we got merch, and I'm assuming our lovely guest, Jenny Nicholson, might have some things to plug. Where would people find you if they wanted to check out some of your stuff? Plug whatever you want.
Oh, they can see me on YouTube at my channel, which is named Jenny Nicholson. And that's it.
It's a great channel.
Oh, and vote for me in the Hugos. If you have a membership for the Hugos, you can vote for me. If you've seen all the content I'm up against and you really think that my work is
It's a voting process. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Come on, everyone, vote.
Yeah.
Have you seen Almost Famous?
I've not.
You should. It's very good. It's a very good movie.
I'll watch it too, but I won't be back to give my thoughts on it. But I'll just watch it.
That's fine. Just watch it. It's a good movie. Watch it at some point. Add it to your watch list.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. And
thanks for having me.
Happy Trek, everybody.
Shrek
is love. Shrek is life. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.